College Game Day, live from South Bend, Indiana, is built by the Home Depot, proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
The setting could not be more pristine, the weather more beautiful, and the virtual fans, any way they can. Oh, look at that. They don't believe that Notre Dame can win until they learn to pronounce Uyangalele. You know,
we got it now.
You know what? As you look at all these great signs, I don't know what it says about me that every morning for about a week and a half, the first word that pops into my mind when I wake up is Uyangalele. Make sure we get it.
Practicing to make sure you don't mess it up.
That's right. Glad to have you with us on College Game Day. Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, and David Pollack here in the shadow of the Golden Dome and Touchdown Jesus.
Love it.
Lee Corso is in Orlando, and Desmond Howard, pleased to report, is still recovering from the coronavirus but feeling better and ready to go today. You know what, guys? It has been 15 years since number one visited this stadium, 27 years since the Irish beat number one LC. You were here, first time College Game Day ever went on the road.
It sure was, Reese. And this show starts with the blue liner. Clemson and Notre Dame are playing in its highest-ranked matchup of two ACC teams in its 67-year history. The combined rankings of 5. Go Irish. Good luck, Irish. Go get them, Irish.
You know, Coach, this is what Brian Kelly really has wanted. This program almost has needed to kind of go to that next level. You know, he's lost 19 of the last 20 versus top 5 opponents. That's not all on Brian Kelly. He's gotten his team to national championship. He's gotten them into the playoff. But, Des, this is an opportunity here in South Bend against the number one ranked team to show that they can rub shoulders with the big boys.
I tell you what, Kirk, and I like what I'm hearing coming out of South Bend. Coach Kelly said it's not about the implications, it's about the competition. He understands this is their opportunity now to show that they belong on the big stage and that they are not just a placeholder for other teams, especially Big Ten teams. So I'm excited about this game, David. I can't wait to see Notre Dame play Clemson tonight.
And all those numbers are an indictment of Notre Dame and all that stuff. And we can look to the past, but this is Notre Dame's year. I mean, you look at it. You got a quarterback that's been there for probably all those 19 starts. I mean, he's been there forever. You got a coach that's been in place. So if not now, then when? So it's a good opportunity, good stage for Notre Dame.
There are a lot of other storylines today, including Michigan, which has beaten Indiana 24 straight times. And Kirk, do they ever need to make it 25 in a row today?
Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about. I'll tell you what. Now, this Milton, this quarterback, Michigan, they're ready to go. And now they've lost to Michigan State last week, demoralizing loss in a rivalry game at home. So now they're back to ground zero and trying to dig themselves out of this hole. Thing that surprised me was the defense, giving up big plays to a freshman quarterback. Now all the heat's on Jim Harbaugh, and here comes Indiana. Michael Penix able to throw. Tom Allen has a confident team. Two teams going in opposite directions. What'll happen?
How does Oklahoma State rebound? Spencer Sanders, dude, he had some great moments a week ago. He's just got to get rid of the turnovers. When you're confused, throw it to Wallace. Just let him alley-oop on people and dunk. And by the way, Kansas State, they need punt returns. They need special teams. They need to help Will Howard out, their freshman, who's still finding his way in this offensive passing attack.
Pac-12 is back. We're excited to see these two quarterbacks. Arizona State's Jaden Daniels. He was good at protecting the ball. Only 2 interceptions a year ago. But how about Keaton Slovis of the Trojans? Stepped in, true freshman, 30 touchdown passes. Showed great command of the offense. But the Trojans' defense, they struggled a year ago. They returned 12 of their 13 top tacklers.
We got some more Pac-12 for you, baby. How about Davis Mills? Stanford, what are you? I'm really interested to see them this season. Can Michael Wilson, this passing attack, can they make big plays? Can Stanford rebound? Can we get some more intellectual brutality? And how about Kayvon Thibodeau, by the way? Oh, my goodness. He about to set the world on fire. C.J. Verdell running the football. Don't matter who plays quarterback.
And Joe Moorhead now in his OC. That'll be fun to watch. SEC, always a game we look forward to in Jacksonville, Florida, and Georgia. The Gators, of course, have big play ability. This Georgia defense can get after the quarterback. Despite their injuries, they can pressure Trask today, which will be a key. How about my man, Stetson Bennett? My man's got to get his mojo going. 5 picks in the last 2 games. They need balance to have a chance today to move the ball.
And the headliner is Notre Dame against Clemson. Irish want to run the ball with Kyron Williams. They like the matchup they have against the young and suddenly thinner Clemson defensive front. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah leads the Irish in tackles for loss. He wants to make Uiagalelei think a lot. He threw for 342 yards last week starting against Boston College. And Big Cinco is tough to handle on the ground as well. But you got to remember, this Irish defense, as good as it is, they've only faced one offense. It's in the top 50 in yards per play. That is Louisville. This is what's in store for this Saturday slate. 3 ranked matchups. Michigan, Indiana, Florida, Georgia also a matchup of ranked opponents. Coastal Carolina and Liberty try to stay undefeated. And it's been a tough week for COVID-19 cancellations. 10 games postponed. It's not the highest percentage of games. It is the highest raw number of games that we've had this year. We've touched on this a little bit. What's at stake for Notre Dame? You see some of the numbers the guys have referenced. Look at this. 59 different teams have a win against an AP top 5 opponent since Notre Dame last did it. That includes, by the way, Appalachian State before they jumped to the top.
Did you just in the same sentence hit a Owusu-Koramoah and a Uiagalelei?
Yes.
And I mean, that was impressive.
It's basically just he was basically just like, yeah, whatever, I got this.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I just had to say that's thoroughly, and you just nailed that. That was great.
Please do not jinx me.
By the way, 6 is beautiful athlete. Maybe the best athlete on the field outside of ETN tonight.
Why don't you say his name?
I just said Owusu-Koramoah. He's a bad man.
Koramoah, yeah.
Koramoah, yeah.
That's good. Him. He's good. He hits, and it reverberates around the stadium.
Yeah.
You know, all this stuff that we talk about with Notre Dame. Desmond, I'm surprised Dabo the Great can cry because there actually are worlds to conquer. Clemson has never beaten a top 5 opponent in a true road game.
Yeah, I tell you what, and you know, you look at Clemson a week ago, and you always look at the edge. You say, how can a guy like Dabo Swinney get some sort of edge when you have a team that's the #1 team in the nation? They've been great for about a decade. But the way they came out against Boston College is reason enough for Dabo to say, hey, guys, we can't start off slow when we're on the road in South Bend against Notre Dame. This team is out to make a statement. They're out to make a name for themselves. So if I'm Dabo Swinney and his staff, now we have something that we can point to motivate our team. Of course, we don't have Trevor Lawrence, the best quarterback in college football, but we didn't have him a week ago. Now, because of the way they started off a week ago, David, I think that he was able to light a fire up under his team coming into this game.
Motivation, obviously key. Week in, week out. We see that. Dabo's always looking for something to create that chip on the shoulder. Sometimes he uses us. Sometimes he uses whatever he can grab. Yep. I'll tell you what. How about the elimination game? I'm looking the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. We can't call it that anymore, can we?
You just did.
Yeah,
it's okay.
What do you guys call that nowadays?
That's what I still call it. But it's an elimination game, right?
Yeah.
Like, SEC East, these teams have matched the last 3 times, all in the top 10. Like, I'm very curious to see Dan Mullen, has he closed the gap a little bit against Kirby Smart because Georgia's been owning the series?
Yeah. I think their Pac-12 being back is huge.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see the game you talked about. How about the Arizona State-USC game with the quarterback play that we have a chance to see there with Slovis and Daniels? But, Coach, I think everybody's pointing to this game just because we want to see. Clemson's one of those bars, right? Everybody wants to see if you can match up to that. And Notre Dame has wanted this opportunity. They have it right in front of them. Let's see who is able to, and get through this. Reese said this earlier this week, Coach. This is not an elimination game. There's a chance, we'll see in the ACC championship. So whoever loses this game still theoretically still alive.
And Kirk, with the Pac-12 now playing, it's time for me to look at college football playoff. Alabama and Ohio State appear to be a lock for 2 spots. Clemson and Notre Dame are fighting for spot number 3. The Pac-12's unbeaten team will be in play for spot 4. Kirk, it's 2020. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
You know what? Before you do that BYU squad looked really good again last night. We'll show you those highlights. Going to visit with Dabo and Brian Kelly. And on this day when we celebrate college football and the calendar turns to November, we want to send out our best wishes. Most of you have probably seen the news over the last several days that because of the constraints caused by the pandemic, ESPN, we're losing about 300 or so of our valued colleagues and employees, many of whom were so important to our coverage of college football over the years. Want to let all of them know that we send out our best, and we're also very grateful and appreciative for all the work you've done and for the work that we're continued to allow to be done here covering college football in this most trying of times. There's a lot of college football going on today, as we've talked about, some headline games, some other storylines that we're going to dive into. I'm told that it is just starting to rain in the early morning in Southern California.
So not only do you got to get up at 4:45 in the morning to play a game, now it's raining.
Now it's raining a little bit. Still dark in Eugene, too, but they'll try to light it up. No fans in the House of Loud as Stanford comes in against Mario Cristobal and Oregon. Wait until you see the story on David Shaw a little bit later on in College Game Day and his brother. And David's alluded to this game. Each team has lost to an SEC West opponent.
One of the top linebackers, Drew Prox, he opted out. I mean, things just look very dismal for Kansas. And like you said, RD, OU, these guys are looking very good, hitting their stride at the right time, both on offense and defense. This one could get ugly really quickly.
Oh, yeah, it does. How about Baylor and Iowa State sticking in the Big 12? Baylor's lost 3 in a row. Now get Iowa State in Ames. Clones coming now, tied for the lead in the Big 12. We're going to see their back Breece Hall go over 1,000 yards today, in my opinion. Only chance I feel Baylor has is the turnover margin. They've got to be. It's been a strength of theirs all year. They've second in the Big 12. They got to do a good job there and try to get Charlie Brewer in that passing game going against a defense that's going to apply a lot of pressure against a one-dimensional attack.
And Texas better watch out. Jared Dahey throwing the football, spinning around. Played really well last week. Continues to kind of come to form. Bryce Ford Wheaton, a big play wide receiver. Texas defense last week. Dude, Joseph Asai was a man. Yep. Asai balled out, 3 sacks, 12 tackles, was all over the field. Sam Ehlinger going to have to play big. It's going to be a great game.
The Big 12 standings are a jumbled mess right now. Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, all with one conference loss. Now, there are a lot of tiebreakers that could go into the mix. Iowa State still has to play Texas. But I'm not far from saying that we might wind up with Texas and Oklahoma.
Well,
now I'm
scared.
Well, because I'm scared to death for Texas today against West Virginia, and they can't stumble anymore, and they have a propensity to do so. What do you think in the Big 12 right now?
So close to saying.
So
First of all, one thing we know for certain is one of the two will be there, because one of the two have been there since 1988. By the way, so Lincoln Riley was 5. Like, nobody was alive on either roster, so we know 1 or 2 are going to be there. I don't trust Texas, and this to me is a day where Texas is in Texas mode. We know them as underdogs, and we see them when they come up and they come here, and we oh yeah, okay, Texas is back, and then you don't trust them. Today's going to be a test for Texas.
You got to think they were +4 last week. Their offense struggled, which is rare. You know, of all the Texas being Texas, the offense typically is strong. You know, and I expect them to get back on track today at home against West Virginia. I'm with you, though. I don't trust them long term. I do trust OU. I think OU's gotten over the bumps of kind of growing up and some of the younger players, and I think OU is there. I think Iowa State Bears Ball Club ends up getting out there too, because Kansas State's going to lose. Oklahoma State will lose eventually to Oklahoma. So I think the Big 12 championship game is Iowa State. Bear will be very happy. He'll be dancing here on the set and in Oklahoma.
I tell you what, I think that's a good call. I still got to roll with the Cowboys, though, man. I mean, they control their own destiny right now. The big one is going to be when they play Oklahoma. That's going to be the determining factor if they're going to get in the championship game or not. And they may have to play them twice. Who knows? So I'm thinking that Oklahoma State, you know, they're pretty beat up to an offensive line, but they're still been able to find ways to just generate some offense, especially since Sanders came back in the starting lineup. I still got to roll with my Cowboys. I'm going with Oklahoma State.
They may make it to the championship game, Des, but with Gundy being 2-13 against the Sooners, I'm going to need to see it before I believe that they.
I got you down for Texas and OU.
Let me get by today. If we get by today, we'll see. Bear, how are you stacking this up?
Well, the thing with Oklahoma is they're going to need Kansas State and Iowa State to lose twice. That's the thing, because they lost both of those games.
But why only need one of them? Right?
Well, yes. Yeah. Which.
You feel confident about Kansas State?
I feel confident about Kansas because Iowa State plays Kansas State, so one of them will pick up a loss. The other interesting thing is, remember the Oklahoma State win over Iowa State? That could come in handy, because if Iowa State were to lose to Texas, that would be a second loss for the Cyclones, so maybe Oklahoma State could win a tiebreak with Iowa State.
You got Texas over West Virginia today, coming back home?
That game worries me a whole lot. I like the like beast mode, like Texas mode. I like that call by David. Like that line stinks out loud today. I'd stay far away from that game.
Texas is 1-4 in Austin against West Virginia. 1-4. Road team has won 4 straight games. Hey, I got a little blue liner for real.
That is a blue liner.
You know what? For all of the struggles that Texas has had, Texas A&M is almost like the responsible opposing view in the Lone Star State. They take on South Carolina. I think that Jimbo and Will Muschamp gotten rid of that beach house that they used to co-own. There'll be about 20,000 fans watching. You can see it on ESPN tonight. See A&M's schedule. Auburn is the only team left that has a winning record for the Aggies. Aggies' chances of being a one-loss team to crash the playoff, Kirk.
I don't look at Texas A&M's resume and say, wow, keep an eye on these guys. You know, they've got a real shot to run the table and eventually deserve to be considered as possibly the 4th team or the 2nd team in the SEC. I think they're going to be 8-1 going into Jordan-Hare. I think they're going to be favored to play. They've done a nice job this year of kind of taking that next step. Their breakthrough game, of course, was against Florida. But, Des, I don't know if that resume is going to, at the end of the year, is going to look good enough for them to be able to say, hey, we deserve to be out there. But I do think that they're much better, and they end up getting a real shot of being 9-1 into the year.
Herbie, this is 2020, right? It's going to be the survival of the fittest. It's going to be like the last man standing. So their resume isn't going to be very impressive. Obviously, they can win out. I think they'll beat Auburn, too. But that one early loss to Alabama is going to be the thing that they're going to point to and say, listen, this is the only blemish on our record. We believe that we belong in there. And if they keep playing the way they've been playing, they will pass that eye test, David. And I think it's going to be really hard to keep them out of the college football playoff, depending on what happens with the other conferences, of course.
Well, and that one loss was a beatdown. It was a very uncompetitive game against Alabama. So, I think that's going to matter. But I will say this. We've talked about Kellen Mond, honestly, about this. He's playing really good football right now. He's starting to get it together. Receivers are catching the football. If that offense can stay hot, and they look really, really good going down the stretch, they'll make a case.
Yeah. We'll have a lot more on the SEC, Florida, Georgia news coming out of that we'll get to in a little bit. But we want to say good morning to Maria Taylor. I can't imagine a better morning or better setting for a big game, Maria.
Reese, I'm so thankful. We don't need coats today. This is like perfect football weather, and I wish I was a little bit closer, but I'm waving to you guys on the set over there. Coming up on College Game Day, we had all of our eyes on the action that took place last night as the MAC returned to action. But there's one game that's going to take over. You had one job. Stay tuned to find out which one. And then, of course, we know that Penn State, Minnesota, and Iowa have yet to win a game this season. The guys will discuss and break down the ups and downs of the Big Ten this season. But first, guys,
it'll be a fun show next week at noon Eastern time in the Big Ten. Michigan State and Iowa going at it. Iowa's had a couple of heartbreaking losses. Michigan State coming off that exhilarating victory against Michigan. Here are some Big Ten storylines a couple of weeks into the season. Some 10-win teams from a year ago have not in the win column so far. Iowa, Minnesota, and Penn State all looking for their first win today. Have some teams that have started 2-0. How about
another day in the office?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a long time that zero is going to stay in the loss column for Scarlet and Gray. But you see the other teams that have gotten there as well. Have Northwestern that's in the mix, and Wisconsin. They've had their last 2 games canceled. They feel like that maybe the Badgers are the best team in the Big Ten West, but for the second straight week, COVID-19 has kept the Badgers from taking the field. We know 25 years ago, Northwestern started its season upsetting Notre Dame, went to the Rose Bowl. Northwestern get to 3-0, and how good are they?
They do, and I love this team. And last week was a good example. They got down 17-0 like that, turning the football over. But Peyton Ramsey, if you've heard that name or if you remember that name, he was at Indiana. He solidifies this quarterback position. He's tough. He can run. It gives them something they haven't had in a while at the quarterback spot. I depend on him. I think this team's 3-0 today.
Coach's son, Cincinnati Elder.
Yep.
Head coach's son, gritty.
Acts like it.
It does. He does all the little things. All the things that you definitely can't see in a stat sheet. Peyton Ramsey brings to the table, and I'm with you, David. You look at where Northwestern was a year ago. This is a team that was embarrassed. Pat Fitzgerald has too much pride to let his offseason go on and then remember where they were last year. So I'm with you. They get to 3-0. The offense, and this defense is tenacious, running to the football and not giving up. They got a lot of attitude about them. I like this Northwestern team today.
Yeah, I heard you guys breaking down Peyton Ramsey, but I love the defense. I mean, don't forget, Coach Fitz, he used to be a defensive player. He was a linebacker, and they rely heavily on their linebackers. They've only let teams average 70 yards per game on the ground so far. So this defense will carry them today. So I agree. Peyton Ramsey's having a great start, but it's Northwestern's defense that's going to get them to 3-0 today, Reese.
Des, Penn State still looking for that first win. Nittany Lions might be in a little bit of a bad mood when they see Talia Tagovailoa today.
I like Penn State. You know, I like what I saw a week ago. I mean, Kirk, you were there, and it seemed like they were just dead in the water at the beginning of the game. I mean, they could just folded their tent. I mean, down a couple of scores early, but James Franklin had his team out there fighting. They got some skill out there on the wideout position. I like Penn State to win today, Kirk.
I thought you'd like Dotson making that catch. You know, that was big time. Clifford didn't give up. I don't think Penn State loses another game. I think it's more about the kind of the backbone of this program and James Franklin. Of course, they're 0-2, frustrated about sitting there looking at that hole, but I think they'll dig themselves out starting today against Maryland, and I think they've got a good enough defense. Brent Pry does a great job with that group, so I like Penn State.
There's separation in the Big Ten. In the Big Ten West, if they win the division, they should go all UCF, have a parade, get a big trophy, because that's the ceiling. You're not beating Ohio State. Ohio State's running the table in this conference, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Dang.
I mean, they
don't even play the games then.
No, they can play the games and they can fight. They're going to lose.
The quarterback and the receiver play and the defense from Ohio State. Last week, remember after the Nebraska game, people were wondering, wow, they don't have Chase Young. They don't have this. They don't have that. They got the message. Game 2 against Penn State, tenacious at the line of scrimmage, run into the football. Now, the secondary, people still want to see where they can go. But I think
gave up some big plays last week.
They did give up some big plays. So, you know, obviously you want to continue to get better. But, man, it's going to be tough for people to match up with that team this year.
They got Rutgers and their former defensive coordinator, Greg Schiano, today. Barry, you got a lid. You're getting your headset back on now, and you got a Big Ten game on the board.
Oh, my God. They sent you a hat.
The sad thing is they had sent it to me before I made the worst pick ever I've made on the board and losing 51-0. So I just had to pay.
Well, they put a curve into that bill there.
I gave it a little curve.
Oh, you went curve?
I like
okay.
the curve.
You like the curve?
I like the curve.
Let's not let that just slip by, Bear.
Oh, no, I said 50-51 last week, Georgia State. It was a good pick. See, I'd rather lose like that than by a hook. At least I was dead wrong. I got beat bad.
Then a hook.
Then a Rice field goal bounces.
I was going to say, you want to get beat by that, or you want to be on Scott Van Pelt's bad beat segment. I'd rather lose 51-0 and move my focus to something else.
What do you got Big Ten bottom there?
We've been talking about Indiana. It's a great story. They're 2-0, but it's a pedigree game still, really, for me. Michigan's beat them 39 of the last 40 times. You look at Indiana's record. Yeah, they're 2-0, but I mean, you had 200 yards against Penn State. You got 3 turnovers each game by your opponent. Yep. You probably didn't get in the end zone against Penn State, but they gave you the win. Last week, 2.7 yards a carry against Rutgers, 340 yards.
Just taking a win right out of their sails, 2-0.
I know, and I love Indiana because we had them that day. Is it okay to sing the Indiana Fight song on?
One line.
Not when you pick Michigan. No, it is not okay.
Definitely not when I pick Michigan. But I think it's a good spot for Michigan. Their offense has played well the last couple of weeks. They gave up some big plays last week through the air, but I think it's a good matchup for Michigan.
All right,
Bear needs to bounce back like Michigan does.
I do. He put the whammy on me last week.
We're going to talk about some of Michigan.
I told him what he was setting me up for.
I'm sorry.
We're going to talk about Michigan's problems a little bit later on. Maria Taylor's up here on the set.
Maria,
don't you think Bear looks great in a hat?
I was going to say, let me see the mullet. Can you just do your hair like this, Bear? You're just going to toss it in the wind. Get your Beyonce going a little bit.
Exactly like the hair.
Hey, it's good to be up on the set, David. You ready?
I'm ready.
Kirk,
what are we
something?
doing?
Because I don't really trust him. Yeah, it's time for You Had One Job, presented by Geico. And we got a lot of action to get through here, David, so I really hope you're ready.
Good football. Great football. Action. It was exciting. Nice to have that during the week.
Akron, Western Michigan.
Okay.
Akron attempting the onside kick. They do get to recover it, but what happens is they're offsides.
Yeah. Listen, good effort by the kicker. I'm not down on that. That was good effort. It was good hustle. He even took a hit.
First time you've ever said anything good about a kicker on your job. Congratulations. Okay, the lights actually go off in this game against Ohio and Central Michigan.
That's a problem.
Okay, turn off the lights. No?
And we got few cell phones.
Light a candle.
Okay,
we tried it with Petey Pablo. It actually worked.
We killed it with Petey Pablo. 4th and 7.
Okay,
4th and
more
7.
action. Ball State. Miami of Ohio.
Little pooch punt.
Yeah, a little pooch punt.
Beautiful.
I think Pat McAfee would like this one.
Beautiful. Look at that.
Oh.
Who needs punters? Just let the quarterbacks
Oh, check out the golf swing.
I like it. Masters next week. Let's go.
He looks like a player, actually. That's a nice swing.
I mean, right? We can take him to the Masters.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Reese was watching this one, by the way.
Reese, an offensive lineman threw a pass in this
I
play.
know. I was going crazy. This cost me. This was the worst piece of officiating in the history of college football.
Over the shoulder.
They called this back. They would have had a cover.
This is what Bear means. He'd rather lose by 51 than this right here.
Yep.
But, seriously, that wasn't backwards anyway. Do you think?
It wasn't. I don't think so.
You know what? For your Super Dog purposes, yes, it was backwards.
Okay, so you're just trying to win the Super Dog. Then.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
I
all we
got you.
care about.
It makes sense.
When you're down by that many, by the way, why do you lateral at 55,000 times?
Because you just said, well, why play the games? Well, Ohio State's going to win. Never give up, man.
Chuck it to the end zone, though. I'm just saying, just chuck it deep.
Process. He couldn't get it there. It was, dude. It was 4th and 32. Legit.
Yeah.
4th and 32, and they scored.
Denied.
Let's check in with chefs Dante Shaw, Michael Sorum, Bantam Chicken and Seafood, Home Depot Backyard Game Day, and they're cooking up recipes and fried chicken sandwiches, catfish sandwiches, hush puppies. Good eating for the post game. Still to come, uneven number of games, conference only. How do you determine who ought to be in the college football pool?
Welcome aboard.
That could be a catchphrase.
Oh, my glove!
Oh, I love you.
Ah, blur! Have mercy!
Bite my shiny metal.
Whoa!
Countdown to Kickoff is brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Game day isn't complete without your favorite food and an ice-cold Coke Zero Sugar. Together tastes better.
We all love Lee Corso, and it weren't turnovers until the very end when DJ Ivey picked off Bailey Hockman. Miami 6-1. They win at 44-41. Today, Virginia Tech and Blacksburg, they welcome in the Liberty Flames. It'll be about 1,000 fans, 2% of the people allowed. Liberty is undefeated. They're ranked. Hugh Freeze told his players, get a copy of that AP poll and frame it. Now, look, it's not that he's not confident. I mean, he's got a quarterback transfer from Auburn, Malik Willis, who leads the nation in rushing yards for QB. Ton of it comes off of scrambles. He can throw, too. Yeah, it's 322 yards this year when the play breaks down. That's 76 more than anyone. But the Flames, they're going to have to deal with Khalil Herbert. He leads the nation in all-purpose yards. He's had 5 100-yard rushing games. But here comes Liberty. They haven't played anybody. 4-28 their opponents are. But what can they do today?
Pack a sandwich. This is the perfect. Listen, Liberty is going to come in here and get at least 30. So, now listen, they might give up 50. But this offense is fun to watch. And Hugh Freeze, by the way, you remember him beating Alabama years ago? It's the same offense, high-flying, fast. By the way, won't take their foot off the gas all day long, no matter what happens. So Liberty's getting 30 on Virginia Tech today, at least 30.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to win this game, but how about the job that Hugh Freeze has done? Everything that he went through in Oxford, admitted the wrongdoings, took his medicine, went to Liberty, tried to build this program up as best as he can or could, and now he has them up in the top 25. So they may not win today at Lane Stadium, but incredible effort and just a great job of showing perseverance. And Bear has him on the board there, doesn't he?
Well, if Pollock's saying they're getting 30, I'm going to say Virginia Tech gets at least 49 or 47. but you're right. This reminds me of that game against Boston College a couple weeks ago where BC was a 2-touchdown underdog, and, oh, wow, they were ranked team on the – this is a bad matchup. The fact that it's an in-state rivalry and they're 6-0, I think this game matters to Justin Fuente and the Hokies. You don't want Liberty coming in there competing or maybe even beating you, because that's going to be used in recruiting, and maybe Liberty would move up a couple notches on the ladder.
Virginia Tech, big game with Miami next week.
Exactly, but I think Virginia Tech's offense, I think they're going to score a ton of points today. It's a big number, but it's big for a reason.
I know it's been a while, but there's a history. Old Dominion.
Yep.
Against Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
James Madison against Virginia Tech back in the day.
It's true. Good point.
Are you
you know,
Super Dog lean?
Superdog? Stay tuned, it sounds like.
Stay tuned.
Somebody did some homework and some research on that.
Sometimes you have to talk yourself into things. You know?
You gotta find it.
You may not really believe it.
You pulled out Old Dominion to justify this Superdog. Holy cow.
Stanford and Oregon tonight at 7:30 Eastern time. Herbie's going to head up there to Hudson Stadium. Hey, Cardinal, they've lost 4 in a row. Dating back to last year.
How many humans have gone from South Bend to Eugene in the same day? Maria and company are about to find out.
That's about it.
Yeah.
At noon Eastern time, 9 on the West Coast, Arizona State's going to kick off against SC. The Sun Devils have arrived. You may say, how in the world are they going to figure this out at 6:10? Getting ready for Notre Dame and Clemson, number 1 coming in to South Bend for the first time in 15 years as the Irish try to take down the Tigers. Met 5 years ago in an epic showdown at Clemson. It was the BYOG Bring Your Own Guts game. Also ahead on College Game Day this morning, for the first time ever, David Shaw will share the story of his brother's battle with cancer and how David donated his own bone marrow to help save his brother's life. A truly inspirational and moving story that you don't want to miss. Stanford and Oregon later today. And former Notre Dame and current Steeler rookie wide receiver Chase Claypool, our celebrity guest picker. LC tries to stay perfect on his headgear picks this year. We got great fans virtually all over the place. Clemson fans, Notre Dame fans here as well. Stanford and Oregon tonight. That's a really good sign about Notre Dame will win when I can pronounce Uyangalele. Pizza Hut game day traditions back in 1988. The old Catholics versus convicts game. Lou Holtz and the Irish against the Miami Hurricanes, right down on the goal line. The completion, the fumble, Steve Walsh arguing to no avail. And then Walsh throwing for the end zone and a touchdown for Jimmy Johnson's Hurricanes. And what are you going to do here? You're going to go for 2, right? Knocked away, just as they knocked one away in 93. This preserved victory against Florida State, and the Irish take down Miami 31-30. Now, under Brian Kelly, they reached the 2012 National Championship game. Win percentage has been outstanding. What they're looking for is that top 5 win and a victory against number 1. And the guy who's trying to get it joins Maria and Kirk.
He does right now in the middle of the field. Coach, thank you so much for coming out with us. It's a beautiful day.
Well, this is... That's how we do it in South Bend. 70 degrees. Who needs to be in Nashville? Who needs to be in Georgia? Right here is where we go, right?
If we would have known, we would have been here sooner, Coach.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
So this season is so interesting because I feel like it makes us cherish what we get to do even more. We get to talk football. You get to coach it. How would you just describe what it's been like for you?
2020? Mm-hmm. Man, it's been a challenge. I think what energizes coaches and me in particular is our student athletes and our students, our band, our cheerleaders, everybody that's here today. I mean, we're going through a very difficult time, and to balance academics, to balance COVID and to play, all of those things. I just love the fact that they do it with a sense of optimism and opportunity instead of pessimism and negativity. Yeah. That just for coaches, that's why we do this.
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of opportunities, the opportunity to play Clemson at home. Yep. You got a 22-game win streak here. Yeah. And you said that this is about being a championship team, not just winning football games anymore. How does this game factor into it?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're talking about performance and playing, on the big stage, and we've had to up our performance level when we get these opportunities, and so we've been working towards that. It's been a lot of work to get to this level, and we feel like we've got a football team that can perform at that highest level.
You went to Athens last year, and you were right there. I mean, toe-to-toe, tough atmosphere, showed that you have the athletic ability. I'm sure your players, even though you lost a game, show you can play in these kind of games. Yeah. What is it about this game? I mean, everybody's talking about your line, your ability to run the ball. What do you think are some keys tonight to this matchup?
Well, I don't think the basic tenets of college football or any football has changed. If you can control the line of scrimmage, you've got a chance. So we've got a veteran offensive line that played in the 2018 college playoffs against this Clemson team, they were a bunch of sophomores. Now they're a bunch of fifth-year seniors. So you've got a mature group on the offensive line. You've got a defense that has pieces. In other words, they have athleticism on all three levels. So when you're talking about these kinds of games, you want an athletic defense and you want an offensive line that can control the ball. If you have those two pieces and a veteran quarterback, right, you've got the pieces that you can go and play anywhere. Now you got to go execute and you got to make plays, but as a coach, if you have those three pieces together, you got a good chance.
What do you feel like is the identity of the team that they've already proven to you over the first 6 weeks of the season?
I think right now our identity is starting to define itself as that they can make plays when they're called upon. I want to see more playmaking ability, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And those guys are waiting for that opportunity. I think the other thing is play fearless. They have nothing, to worry about. I mean, there's bigger things out there than playing college football. So play fearless. And I think the last thing is play with some energy, play with some juice. And I think those three things together, that's your identity.
I don't know if you heard, but College Game Day is going to Augusta next week. Have you played Augusta?
See, maybe a couple of times. How many times have you played? About a million times, probably.
Just a handful. But do you have
I know
any tips?
Reese Davis plays every other weekend.
Do you have any tips for our crew other than just stay where we're told to stay? Other than that,
do that. Do that first if you want to get invited back.
Yeah.
My good friend Jimmy Dunn would tell me first and foremost, pick it up if you're not playing fast. That's the first thing. But I think you just enjoy the walk. It's one of the most enjoyable walks in golf, and the atmosphere there. When you drive down Magnolia, it's like looking at the dome when you come up here. It's just one of those magical sights.
We're going to take it in. We're going to get a pimento cheese sandwich, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to take a look
get the fried oysters, too.
Fried oysters? Okay, you got
all over
write this down. Well, Coach, we appreciate you seriously spending some time. Good luck tonight.
Yeah, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Go Irish!
All right. Thanks, man.
Reese.
All right, Maria, Brian, thank you very much. Indiana just down the road. They're off to a terrific start, but haven't had any success against Michigan. Michigan has beaten Indiana 24 straight times. That is the second longest active streak by one team against an opponent, one short of the streak that Ohio State has against Indiana. And isn't that just a microcosm of Michigan under Jim Harbaugh? Good, but not quite elite, not quite as good as Ohio State, for instance. Michigan has been pretty predictable in recent years. They beat who they're supposed to beat, and they never beat anyone that they're not supposed to beat. And if there are surprises, it's a bad one, like the faceplant last week against Sparty. That pushed Michigan men and women over the brink in terms of their patience with when Harbaugh was going to elevate the program. Gene Wojciechowski looks into this idea of why Michigan hasn't been able to take the step from pretty good to great.
Today, I'm very pleased and proud to announce the 20th head football coach at the University of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh.
I'm wondering how comfortable or uncomfortable you are with this perception that you're the savior of Michigan football.
I'm not comfortable with that at all. As I said, I'm standing on a foundation that has been built for over 100 years by some great men.
The 2014 presser, Jim's introduction, was, to Michigan fans, it was manna from heaven. The feeling in the room, even amongst the press, it seemed like, was salvation.
McCarty, he has Hayward. Dives, touchdown, Michigan State.
How would you assess the job you've done 6 years later?
Well, as I said at the time, I don't, I'm part of a team, didn't consider myself to be a savior then or now.
It's angst, anguish, because the feeling amongst the fan base is, if Jim Harbaugh can't do it, then who can? But if I had to guess, I think you're up to about half the Michigan fan base is seriously contemplating a change.
Embarrassing. That was an embarrassment. Play calling was trash today. Absolute trash.
Harbaugh supporters point to his 48-19 record, 3 10-win seasons, and much improved recruiting rankings. Critics recite these numbers: 0 Big Ten championships, 0 wins in his last 4 bowl games, and 0 wins against Ohio State.
My view of the first down was it was that short.
Beat the Buckeyes. No more, no less. It's the one thing remaining in his way.
Touchdown, Spartans!
It would also help if Harbaugh quit losing to Michigan State at the Big House. Last Saturday, the Wolverines were 3-touchdown favorites and lost, dropping Harbaugh's record to 1-3 against the Spartans at home.
Man, it feels unreal.
That loss, that's red letter, man. This is by far the biggest loss on Harbaugh's resume at Michigan.
As usual, Harbaugh is taking the heat.
Do you think it's fair? I don't know. No comment on that. Love coaching this team, current team, the past teams we've had. What happened on Saturday, that window's now closed.
When you put the numbers to it, look, if anybody tells you Michigan's not good, they're just flat wrong. Michigan's good. The problem is they haven't been elite. The record against top 10 opponents. The one that really stands out to me is the record as an underdog at Michigan. He's 0-10. I mean, this guy beat a vaunted USC team as a 40-point dog under Stanford, so it's not as if he's never done it. He just hasn't done it at Michigan. That was an embarrassing loss to Michigan State last week. Spartans were coming off a terrible performance against Rutgers, and it really crystallized for me some of the questions about this. And it comes down to this. The problem at Michigan is either scheme and philosophy or its personality and demeanor and the proverbial culture. So, Desmond, as you look at Michigan right now, what is it in your judgment that's keeping them from elevating from good to really good or great?
Well, RD, first, I think that Gene did a wonderful piece, and I think that the numbers that you've presented, they speak for themselves. And to completely unpack everything that's involved, this will require just me to do this segment. Herbie and Pollack will have to sit out. But since that's not going to happen, just let me tell you what the practical issue is for me. I think that you hit on a couple of things, but on the surface, he hasn't been able to find a quarterback, and for whatever reason, that's another conversation. But he hasn't been able to find a quarterback. After the Minnesota game, people looked at Joe Milton as maybe being the guy, but then the Michigan State game happened. Joe didn't play terrible, but they lost the game. And then number two, RD, is the fact that I believe that Don Brown, the defensive coordinator, is consistently trying to run a scheme that he does not have the personnel for, and that's being exposed. Now, normally, it's exposed kind of later in the season with, playing against maybe Ohio State, a team like that with really great receivers and a very talented quarterback. But last week, it was exposed early by Michigan State, and then there were none or few changes in the secondary. So, like I say, there's a lot to unpack there, RD, but that's just the beginning for me, David.
Yeah, and to answer your question, listen, I think it's personality. And when I say that, Jim Harbaugh's not getting it done like we thought he would, like he's getting paid. Like, I'll be honest, I remember where I was when he got hired. We were at the Rose Bowl, and I was like, oh, my gosh, this is huge news for Michigan. This is going to put them in the elite category. I think just judging it from the outside in, I'm not in the locker room every single day. I think it's personality. I think there's something about relating to kids. Maybe as he's gotten a little bit older and the game has changed and the clientele has changed. There's no doubt about it. Jim Harbaugh's old school. He's an old school guy. Like, he's a different bird. I think relating to the kids has been, it appears to be a little bit of a struggle, and they're underperforming. He is the fourth highest paid coach in college football. Like, obviously, if I'm a Michigan fan, I want better results. It's Jim Harbaugh, so I expect better things than that. And, Coach, what do you think?
Jim Harbaugh's record now at home is against his rivals, Michigan State and Ohio State, is 1-6. His record against Ohio State is 0-5. He has not won a bowl game in his last 4 tries. And add to that, Michigan has won 24 straight against Indiana. Needless to say, Kirk, this is a must game for the Big Blue. A must game for the Big Blue.
No doubt. I mean, they've been backed into a corner after a loss last week to a rival. To me, the reality is the game has never been more about being able to play in space and defend in space. And in order to do that, you need elite personnel at the skill spots. And if you look at Michigan at wide receiver and at corner, over the years that Jim Harbaugh has been there, they've been good, as Reese said, but they haven't been elite. So when they get on the field with a team like an Ohio State or an Alabama, they get exposed in those areas because Don Brown, going back to what Des said, he lives out on an edge. He asks his corners to play one-on-one. Last week they got exposed. As far as the personality, I think, I've been close to this program just calling games on Saturday night, I think he still relates very well to the players. But at some point, the players need to take accountability. At some point, it's not just Jim Harbaugh. When I watched the Michigan State-Michigan game, we can break down XOs all we want. That team looked deflated. Michigan State looked like, after a loss to Rutgers, they were playing with an edge. They were looking like desperate. Michigan was just kind of cruising. How do you play your rival? And I know it's COVID and we have empty stadiums and all that, but how do you play your rival and just kind of go through the motions? So who are the leaders on this team that are allowing that to go on? So I think the players need to take some responsibility, not just put it all on Jim Harbaugh.
That's true. They're a little bit younger, though, real quick.
Well, you talk about its receivers and the game is like it's also your job as a coach to find those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to go get those guys.
Yeah.
You got to recruit them.
And here's the other thing. The administration has not changed, as I told you a couple of weeks ago. They don't want anything. They don't want Harbaugh to go anywhere, Des, except to work at Schembechler Hall.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I think the point that David made, I thought the same thing, David. I said maybe he's not, relating to these players, but don't forget, these are his recruits. So these guys aren't committing to come to Ann Arbor to play for Jim Harbaugh if they can't relate to this guy. So he's bringing in some guys who, Michigan isn't the only team that's recruiting them. So I used to think that, but then I said, well, you know what? If they relate to him well enough that they're going to commit to go to the University of Michigan, then I don't think that's the problem. It's not that he can't relate to the players. They must like him enough that they commit to Michigan.
I bet they play with their hair on fire in Bloomington.
If they don't.
Well, if they don't, then we'll have this discussion again next week, and it'll be far more serious.
Players.
You will not have to worry for 1 second about people arriving energized and excited in Jacksonville today. Florida and Georgia. I know it's going to be a little bit different in terms of social distancing, stay 6 feet apart, a much smaller crowd there, but there are so many wild and crazy moments in this storied rivalry. It was 50 years ago that Jack Youngblood had a big streak to save the Gators, and 40 years ago tomorrow, Dogs back up in their old end, and it's third down, and Buck's going to look, and he's going to throw it back. And it's got 25, 30. Lindsey Scott! Lindsey Scott! Lindsey Scott! Run, Lindsey! Run, Lindsey, run! Run, Lindsey, run! I broke my chair. It was a metal chair, had a 5-inch cushion on it, and the whole stadium's coming down.
That's good. No Sean Marino.
Remember, have a dance party.
Couldn't beat him.
Out of character for Mark Richt to say, if you're not in that end zone when we score, you're going to run on Monday.
And they gave him the juice.
Yeah,
they gave him the juice to beat Tebow and company.
They lost 7 out of 8. I think Rick had only beaten them one time during at that moment. Matthew Stafford
was pretty in that uni. Yeah, he looked good. He looks so good.
When he throws, he looks good in all of them.
Yeah, he does.
Dogs won that 42-30. Now today is going to be the third straight time they've met as top 10 opponents. That's a first. But last year, it was Jake Fromm in the offense doing enough in the Georgia defense carrying the day.
Carrying the day and limiting this Gator offense till really late in the game where they had a couple scores to get it kind of close, but the defense definitely dominated.
That's really the formula that they're looking for today. And like that, too, if Stetson Bennett could find wide open receivers as Jake Fromm did last year. 24-17, Dogs won that one, but Georgia comes in. George Pickens didn't make the trip. They're beat up on defense. Stetson Bennett's confidence has to be a little bit shaken. What do you expect today?
Well, okay, and all that you just told me, and Florida's got everything rolling. Florida's got to win this game then. Like, they got to take care of business. And Dan Mullen, they're closing the gap. They're closing the gap with Georgia. Like, you got a quarterback. You got a tight end who might be the best player in all of college football. Like, this is a big day for the Gators. They got to take advantage of this opportunity. Dan Mullen and his offense, by the way, Kirk, versus Kirby Smart. 4 touchdowns in 3 games.
Wow.
4.
Wow.
4 touchdowns in 3 games. So he's got to also prove that Kirby doesn't have his number today.
And Kirby seems to put a little bit of extra attention, like a lot of rivalries in the offseason to this game and matching up against Dan Mullen. But to me, the Stetson Bennett, like Stetson Bennett. His own fan base kind of turned on him after the Alabama game, but really watching this guy closely, playing with a chip on his shoulder, it's been up and down, up and down. He's just been erratic with his decision-making, and I think that's got to get cleaned up today. And you go back and watch him play. This is the Alabama game, 3rd and 7. For people that say, we can't win the big game with 13 in there, watch him on 3rd down and 7. Watch him feel the pressure, doesn't panic. That's Alabama's defense on 3rd and 7 in Tuscaloosa, throws it right into the hole. This is early in the game when he had his confidence going. Here's the turning point to me and where 13 has been playing. Look at the tight end underneath, by the way. He's going to force this ball. Remember this play? Late in the game, late in the 3rd quarter, interception, and Georgia never responded. It's been a different Stetson Bennett since. Now, this is an example. Feeling the pressure again. Undersized. Jumps in the air to avoid the pressure. Throws it to the big tight end at 6'7", and throws a dime. Absolutely drops on him. So there's that, and then there's this. He predetermined you're out. We don't have George Pickens. We don't have that big playability. We can run the ball. We know we can run the football. But he's got to put Stetson Bennett, look for today, early down play action. Move the pocket. Try to get him established. Because, Coach, today they have to have balance. I know they want to run. I know they want to possess the ball and keep it away from Kyle Trask. But I think Stetson Bennett's going to have to avoid the kind of erratic behavior that we've seen since that 4th quarter in the Bama game.
Kirk, one stat that favors Georgia is they are number 3 in rushing in the SEC. Florida is number 9. Why is that important? Well, in the past 14 years, the team with the most rushing yards wins. Dez, no wonder Georgia is a 3-point favorite. Go Gators.
That's an excellent point, Coach. But I tell you what, they're just so beat up on defense, and we've known that throughout the season. That's been their calling card, their defense, one of the tops in the nation. And we look at Stetson Bennett, great job by Kirk breaking it down in the last couple of games, 5 interceptions. That Alabama game, people don't understand. He started off on fire, but don't forget, in the first half, Alabama, they were without their safety, Jordan Battle. He was suspended for the first half because of a targeting violation in the previous game. But when he came back in the second half, that's when the tables turned for Alabama's defense, and that's when they were really effective, making sure that Stetson Bennett wasn't completing those throws and getting some turnovers. So I think that Stetson Bennett is a guy that manages the offense. Since they can't run the ball, they're going to have to run it. But without those guys on defense, it's going to be a long day for the Georgia Bulldogs. Dan Mullen's offense is going to have fun today against Georgia.
We'll see. I thought
fun. I don't know.
I thought Georgia really missed an opportunity last week. Bennett only threw 5 passes, 10 yards or more down the field. They should have let him get some more opportunities. They could have given Kentucky the ball in the 30 every time, and we're going to score a touchdown.
And I think they called the plays obviously like that.
They did.
Yeah, just
that's
being safe.
Still to come on College Game Day, Pac-12 after dawn. Get you ready for USC and Arizona State. Those body clocks have to change. You know, Herm gets up at 4 a.m. every day anyway, so he'll be fine and ready to go. And we'll have further breakdown of Notre Dame and Clemson. That's a young Tiger defensive front against a veteran Irish offensive line. Can Kyron Williams and Notre Dame take advantage? Texas coming off that win against Oklahoma State. They have arrived. Coca-Cola counting us down to kickoff inside an hour and 45. But we're going to talk Dan Mullen and Star Wars a little bit later on in College Game Day. Pac-12 returns, so even small versions of Old Crimson making the signs, and then there's the legit version as the Cougs open up against Oregon State today as the Pac-12 finally gets things underway. They do have a couple of games that have been canceled. So let's do some storylines here. Oregon plays Stanford tonight. The Ducks trying to become the first repeat Pac-12 champion since 2012 and 13 after winning the conference, winning the Rose Bowl last year. USC, they lost big in the Holiday Bowl against Iowa, but Keaton Slovis is back. He's bigger, stronger, got 8 returning starters on offense. Second year with Graham Harrell, the offensive coordinator. A lot of new coaches. Jimmy Lake takes over for Chris Peterson. Carl Durrell takes over at Colorado, and Nick Rolovich is now the head coach at Washington State after Mike Leach moved on. And there have been a couple of games canceled. There's no room for postponing games until later in the year in the Pac-12, so they've been declared no contest. That includes Washington and Cal and Utah and Arizona. But Arizona State and USC are good to go. 9 a.m. local kickoff. USC arrived a little bit earlier to the Coliseum. To get them ready last week, Clay Helton made sure that he got the early wake-up call, got the guys on the bus, and they went to the Coliseum and they watched the sunrise there just to get accustomed to the early starts. There will be no fans there, and USC and Arizona State. Kirk, you look at this game, and there are a lot of expectations for a USC team that really a little shaky. They didn't play well in the bowl game anyway late in the season.
No, but I think that we're talking about Jim Harbaugh and the pressure he's felt. Clay Helton, the amount of pressure that he's felt. And I think near the end of the year last year, they were able to regroup to the bowl game. But I think you got a quarterback in Keaton Slovis coming back. You got receivers that you believe in. You got backs. I think they're very confident. Now Graham Harrell in his second year as OC. I just think that it's a great way to start. You don't have Fresno State, respectfully, or somebody to kind of get you ready. You're jumping right into Jaden Daniels and an Arizona State team that can score. So this to me will be one of the better matchups of the day.
And if you didn't watch Jaden Daniels as a freshman, he's a star.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, 17
didn't turn it over either.
touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
All of last season.
Yeah.
New OC. I'll be very curious. Arizona State can have a great season. Frank Darby's a machine out
downfield.
wide. The question is, can they block up front? And it's transfers on the offensive line that's going to dictate that from A&M, from Stanford. Like, can they protect the young man? That's the biggest thing. This guy's got Heisman written all over him. That's what kind of good he is. I mean, he's that kind of special, but they got to be able to protect him. So I'm interested to see both sides of the ball for Arizona State. New coordinator on offense, new coordinator on defense.
And you got Todd Orlando, you said, coming over from Texas to help out with USC. And real quick, Barry, you wanted to hop in here on Arizona State?
No, on USC. I think you hit on it. Like, people are down on SC. Like, I think SC is in a great position to get to the Pac-12 championship game this year. I mean, the last 5 years rather, they're 21-4 against the Pac-12 South. They don't have that North crossover game with the Stanford or whomever. They don't have a tough non-conference game. I think SC is clearly the team to beat in the South.
Better be careful with that number, because Herm has a way of keeping it close. They've got some veteran guys back too, Desmond.
Yeah, he does. And, they're going to play some great defense. He's going to come up with some NFL-type schemes to try to confuse Keaton Slovis. But I'm so impressed with what Slovis did a year ago. 30 touchdown passes, his first as a freshman. And now you got Graham Harrell calling the plays for the second year with Slovis. And now he's probably even more comfortable with that air raid offense. Going up against Herm and that defense is going to be a huge challenge. I agree with Herbie. I think this could be one of the better games of the weekend. And then I think you said that it was raining earlier. Tony told you that it doesn't rain in Southern California. I would sing it, but I'm still trying to get over this COVID thing.
Well, it lied in this case, but it might let up by the time that they start to play. And Desmond mentioned the NFL schemes that Arizona State would be able to employ on defense. Not only do they have Antonio Pierce, who is their defensive coordinator, the co-defensive coordinator is Marvin Lewis.
Yep.
He knows a little bit about defense, too, and they have some players. Antonio's son, DeAndre, transferred from Boise State.
Great player.
He's a terrific secondary player. I think this is going to be a really, really good game.
And Drake London, another name, a young receiver for USC that they're going to have to defend.
That'll get things started in the Pac-12. And then tonight in prime time on ABC, it'll be Stanford and Oregon. A little bit later on in College Game Day, just an inspirational story about David Shaw and his brother that you'll see. The game, 7:30 Eastern time, 4:30 on the West Coast, as the Ducks hope to do enough, perhaps, to not only defend their Pac-12 title, but to merit college football playoff consideration when the time comes. At noon Eastern time on ABC. Coca-Cola's counting us down to kickoff. West Virginia, this Ears defense, stingy. Texas has had some issues. West Virginia's had success in Austin.
You already put them in the Big 12 championship game. Stop retracting that.
Careful. I offered the caveat.
It's kind of like saying that way he's good on both sides.
Yeah, that's right. I'll say it when I mean it. We'll pick the playoff teams, tell you how it should be done. And this year, where it's most difficult to do so, Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney is going to join us live. Never been to South Bend. Had a pretty good tour guide yesterday. Saw a lot of the sites, collected some art, from what I'm told, too. A little surprising there. Dabo made the most of the trip. But first, it's time for a shout-out from one of America's heroes.
Hey Tigers, Captain Schuler, class of 06 and 08, calling from Camp Lemonnier. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. CLEMSON. TIGRS. Fight, Tigers, fight, Tigers, fight, fight, fight.
The Jets.
Wow.
Jets are scuffling.
Bears, Jets.
Patriots are scuffling. What are you talking about?
Not like the Jets.
Well, the Jets are the Jets.
8 o'clock Eastern time.
Poor Bear.
Kickoff of Monday Night Football.
Fitting.
You go around campus here, and every now and then you'll see a bicycle in a tree. If students don't lock up their bikes, instead of stealing, they just toss them up in the trees.
I like that.
Literally, wheels up.
Why do you like that?
Sure
Responsibility. You don't take care of things, throw it in the tree. I like that.
You don't take care of things, you ruin them. Yeah, that's a great idea. Wheels up, thank you.
Wheels up, pop. There, our Pizza Hut Game Day Spotlight. We join Maria.
That's right, Reese. And now we're joined by Herm Edwards, who has a 9 a.m. local kick today. Coach, I have to ask you, what time do you normally wake up, and how do you get the team up for a kick when their pregame meal was at 4:45 in the morning?
Well, it's early. I'm a 4 o'clock guy, but our players have understood what they're dealing with this week of getting to bed early and waking up early. And now I'm just standing out here on the field, and guys are already doing the warm-ups at 8 o'clock, right?
Well, we love seeing your face, Coach, but I would love to see a little bit of the players warming up, too. Can we get a shot of that?
Well, you can see a couple of those big guys in the end zone, right? You see some of our guys.
Absolutely.
Some of our guys there, so they're getting a preview of what's getting ready to happen here. It's been kind of it's rained early and now stopped, and it's supposed to kind of rain in and out.
Well, sometimes it does rain in Southern California, Coach. Yeah, well, you got a little bit of a preview of the warm-up. Give us a preview of the game. New coordinators on defense and offense. What's the identity of this Arizona State team?
Well, we're going to find out today. I think the one thing that you can count on is that we will be competitive. I mean, that's the one thing we try to stress around here: consistent competitiveness. And defensively, we're running a traditional 4-3. We have the Boise State offense, a lot of shifts, a lot of motions, a balanced offense. So it's going to kind of be fun to watch for us because we haven't played together. We haven't, as a staff, coached the game together. So this is going to be kind of a fun day for us.
Okay, but one thing we know for sure is Jaden Daniels. We know he can ball. What's the next step in his evolution after leading you guys to 8 wins a season ago?
Well, we got to help him, and it starts with our protection up front. We got to protect the young core. We got to protect him. If we can protect him, then our offense will run very efficiently, and that's the key for us right now. Protect our offense. We got some young receivers that are going to play their first time, a couple freshmen. The anxiety of that, we got some freshman running backs that are going to play as well. So this is going to be a day where you're going to watch the players try to get through the first 6 minutes. That's what I always say in a football game. The first 6 minutes, then all of a sudden you can find the pace of the game and your emotions calm down and you can play.
All right, Coach. Well, enjoy the game. Go get a latte, and we're looking forward to watching you here this morning.
Thank you now.
All right, Maria Herm, thank you. That's the early morning game. The late Friday night game was BYU going to the blue and absolutely owning it. Tyler Algier goes 86. Herbie, longest BYU play from scrimmage since 2006.
Yeah, balanced attack. We know what Zach Wilson can do, but they can run the ball, control the line of scrimmage, and then give this guy time to throw. And he's got good receivers downfield.
Boy, his arm is just so much better this year. Last year he played with a hurt shoulder. He's just been electric. Boise State, I know there's some quarterback injury issues. Teams just don't do this to them. No. That's Isaac Rex, who scored a touchdown. Remember, BYU lost their best offensive player in Matt Bushman in the preseason. Here's Dax Milne.
Well, best offensive players.
Best non-quarterback player.
Playing quarterback.
But again, they run the ball.
Do it again. BYU rolls over Boise State, 51-17.
People still doubted us, and I don't blame them for that. Really, it's hard to tell with how our season has been switched up, but really each week is another opportunity to keep proving ourselves, and tonight was a big one for us. These guys don't like to lose at home, and to come out with a win like that was huge. So I think that statement continues, and it means nothing unless we keep winning.
Zach brings up a good point. They were supposed to play 6 Power 5 teams. If memory serves, I think they had Arizona State on that schedule too. These are the dates that are important for the college football playoff. Everything is as scripted for the playoff right now, but evaluating the teams is going to be difficult. Kirk, BYU is not going to measure up in any of the metrics, the strength of schedule, any of that, to Cincinnati or to any of the SEC or ACC teams. How should BYU be evaluated?
What they're doing on the field. I mean, they're winning games by an average of 45-13. What else can you ask them to do? I don't care what the schedule says. It's about what you're doing on the field. And they do everything. This is a team that was riddled with injuries a year ago. Guys had to play last year that weren't ready. Now you have those guys back this year and the guys that were hurt back. So it's a veteran team, a team with a great quarterback. You got receivers in Romney and Milne. Even with the tight end down this year, they still have balance. They can control the line of scrimmage. And don't sleep on their defense. They fly to the football, and they have really good linebackers. They're one of those teams, I remember getting ready for them, Des. They've got about, 7 guys that are about 6'2", 210 pounds, those hybrid type players that can play backer, can play safety. Just a tough team all around. And to me, as teams keep losing, do not forget about BYU. They're legit.
Yeah, I like looking at the Cougars, man. They have no glaring weaknesses. Another team that's in that same ballpark, I believe, is the Cincinnati Bearcats. I think they don't have any glaring weaknesses. Very, very stout on defense. Desmond Ridder is having a phenomenal season thus far, running the ball, making really good decisions. But I like the attitude they come out there with. I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to go get this SMU team that scores a lot of points. No problem. Okay, now you're going to bring in a Memphis team that scores a lot of points. They gain a lot of yards on offense. No problem. I like the way they go out there, handle their business. They have a strong identity. I wish I could see Cincinnati play BYU, Coach, but Cincinnati is another team to keep an eye on. Watch those Bearcats, Coach.
Hey, Des, BYU is very good, but in my mind, Cincinnati is the most complete team in the group of 5. Today, they will have no problem with Houston. But on November 21st, in beautiful downtown Orlando, against UCF, is a game that will make or break their season. David, I can't wait for that game, November 21st in Orlando.
No doubt. Big game. You mentioned UCF. That's a great point. I want to ask Mr. Herbstreit. UCF a couple years ago was doing what BYU was doing. Why weren't they worthy of that conversation?
I think the line of scrimmage on both sides. I think the diversity and how they can attack in different ways. So they're not – you don't turn on the TV and watch highlights with the way UCF would provide. I just think they're more complete, personally, as a team.
But, here's the thing. They're not going to measure up, and the same problems will arise for Cincinnati and BYU, Bear, that have arisen for the other ones outside the Power Conference.
You mentioned metrics and schedule. You know what Cincinnati's schedule is right now? 80. You know what BYU's is? 61. And that'll probably change once Cincinnati starts playing some teams. But on a football level, just a breakdown analysis, other than Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State, if BYU were to play anybody in the country, would you absolutely 100% pick any other team in the country to beat BYU?
No, that's crazy.
Like, I give BYU a chance against anyone other in the country because of those 3 teams.
I'm just throwing their hat in the ring.
That's key. I would give them a chance. I don't know if I would say I would pick them.
I'm not saying they definitively should be the team. They deserve to be recognized.
Big Ten and Pac-12 going to play enough games. If you were sitting in that room, maybe the Big Ten. What about the Pac-12? You said no.
I don't see it with the Pac-12 because I think a couple of the games will get canceled.
And
they already have. And the Pac-12. Okay, if we're going to compare USC versus BYU, I mean, it's going to be hard. They're going to have to look really good. Arizona State, and then maybe you play Oregon. I just don't think there's enough body of work. I actually will favor BYU over a Pac-12 team, unless the Pac-12
Bro,
team
you haven't even
crazy.
seen them play yet.
Correct, but they have to play it.
All right, let me ask you this. You ask me a question, I'll ask you a question. How many games did it take you to watch Ohio State until you said, damn, that's a great team? 1, 2?
I mean, the last 5 years.
And I know they're elite.
The last 5 years.
Right, but this year's team.
This year's team, you could watch
them against Penn State, and we're like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't as dominant against Nebraska.
Yeah.
Why not watch Oregon? Why not watch USC? Just give them a chance. You don't need 12 games of beating up Arizona and whoever else, Oregon State, to say, oh, now I like Oregon. Give them a chance. Let's see what they have.
I disagree because I need consistency. Well, one game, anybody can look really good for one game.
They're going to play 7.
I think you have to.
Consistent.
I think you have to prove if you're not going to play as many, you need to have, to your point, you've got to be unequivocally better.
Dominant, and
you've got to be better
The Pac-12 has to look good, not just win. Whoever's going to come out of there has got to be a team that we all go, man, I want to see this team play.
BYU's doing that.
I know they are.
I know they've done that.
Yeah, we've still got plenty of time. I don't know that BYU has anybody left on their schedule that can beat them after that performance on the Blue last night. And we'll see how the Pac-12 teams unfold. That starts this afternoon. Starts at noon, in fact, coming up. Next week is Veterans Day, and we always look for opportunities to be able to salute those who serve our country. Pleased to have so many of the fans joining us virtually and paying tribute to the men and women who serve our country so valiantly and do so much for it. There are many players in college football who really understand this. As you look at Coca-Cola counting us down to kickoff, Carolina and Duke. Michael Carter's parents served in the military.
My beautiful mother, Suzette, spent most of her time in the military, in the Air Force, doing social work and helping people every day with their problems. My dad, Tony, he did 20 years in the Air Force. We served a couple tours, Afghanistan, Iraq. Being brought up in a household like I was very impactful because of the lessons that I learned growing up with two siblings and military parents about respect and loyalty and trust. It was always a safe space to be brought up in, but it was also a place where respect was important. Message to my mom and my dad, thank y'all for everything y'all did, everything that y'all continue to do, and everything that y'all will do in the future, because y'all never stop working and y'all never stop doing everything that you can to make us feel better and help us be the best men that we can be. Thank you.
Great words from Michael Carter and the Home Depot Foundation, putting good into action. They've committed $500 million to serve veterans in need. Follow hashtag Operation Surprise to see how Home Depot associates sharing assistance and hope with communities across the country. This week's Home Depot Game Day pros and playing a few tunes for us this morning as they get set for the showdown with Clemson tonight, #1 against #4 Notre Dame Stadium, #1 in here for the first time in 15 years. Of course, Stanford and Oregon's are Home Depot Game Day sides. Look at all of the people who are participating virtually and showing their creative side to be able to make these signs. Yep, we got a little future Fighting Irish Golden Domer there ready to go, and they're hoping that they will.
Oh, okay.
Well, they've got another fan on that. Hey, congratulations, by the way. You know, Dabo showed Rudy last night as the team movie. As you see there is an art to creating signs, and there apparently is also an art to stealing them. And Clemson's defense is often accused of the latter. But you know what? So what? If they steal your signs, get better signals. Besides, Notre Dame's not exactly going to encrypt their intentions to run at Clemson's young and somewhat thin front seven. They'll need some balance for sure, particularly going against a Tiger defense that tends to be masters of disguising what they plan to do.
You have to prepare for a lot of things when you play Brett Venables' defense.
Pressure again. King is going to be sacked. All-out aggression from Venables' defense.
Different blitz each week. There's different looks. It's 3 down. It's 4 down. And that's what makes them great.
They're the 4th-ranked team in the country for a reason. The quarterback is savvy. He's instinctive. He can make the throws. You know, they're built to run the football.
Williams bounces out to the left side across the 20. He has room across the 10. 5. Touchdown, Notre Dame!
I guess it's a running back you dream of, you know, when you got an offensive line like the one we have where they're moving the line of scrimmage every single run.
You know, we got to tackle well, got to fit up the run games and be physical at the point of attack. That's definitely going to be a good challenge for us.
Something else that would help Notre Dame is to find just a few big plays in the passing game. They've only had 16 so far, second fewest through the first 6 games of the season under Brian Kelly. Only Syracuse and Virginia have had more up to this point, and that has been the one thing that Notre Dame has tried to look for as a way to make big plays down the field.
That plays perfectly into what I'd love to talk about with this tape, because Notre Dame all year has been able to kind of play on their terms. Defense only giving up 10 points a game. They've been able to control the ball, rely on that running game, get into those 3rd and manageable. They've averaged 3rd and 6, allows Ian Book to run, to be able to throw. So it gives them those combinations. Today, I think, could be a little bit more challenging. But let's talk about what they've been able to do and how they've been able to do it. Keep in mind, this offensive line, all 5 back from last year, 138 career starts. So while you want to talk about the backs and how good they've been, let's really talk about the line of scrimmage tonight against the Clemson defense and what they can do. Then you throw in, I think, Skoranek, this kid from Northwestern. He, to me, has got to make plays. Going back to the graphic that you just saw from Reese, they've not been able to make big plays. And he did a couple times against Pitt. You see how he works back to the ball, has some very natural instincts. Here, the contested catch, this is going to be a factor tonight. He's not open. Ian Book throws it, and the big fella at 6'2" just goes up and makes a play. Nice. Can he do that tonight against the Clemson defense and the athletic ability? He's going to have to. Here's an X factor. 3rd down. Watch Ian Book in this game. You better spy him, because his best play, I think, sometimes on 3rd down is this. Using his legs, pulling it down, taking off, keeping the sticks alive. Like I said, Ian Book, 30th career start. He's been able to play on his terms. It's allowed him to be able to kind of just manage the game. Against Clemson, remember now, they're somewhat depleted because they have some injuries, especially in the middle with Tyler Davis, the nose guard, the 3 technique. Skowski, who's basically an extension of Brent Venables, they're not here. So, Des, can this Clemson defense get creative and do all that they want to do to try to make Ian Book uncomfortable, really, for the first time all year?
Yes, and they're going to have to, too, because last week I thought they got exposed in that first half against Boston College. Boston College, I think, showed us the blueprint on how to attack the Clemson defense. Let me give you an example right here on this videotape. The first series they came out with 4 wideouts. You're going to see 3 at the top, 1 at the bottom. They tried to get a matchup that they liked, that they thought was favorable, to get their best wideout, number 24, Nolan Turner, who's a safety. He's a pretty good safety, but out in space, out in coverage, he has a problem flipping his hips, change of direction. See it right there. Now he's trying to change again. Trust me, Notre Dame saw that. They're going to try to take advantage of it. But Brent Venables did too. Later in the game, he gives Boston College a look. Okay, they're going to bring pressure. No, they're actually going to bring 3, but drop 8, creating very small windows for the quarterback to try to find a receiver. The quarterback can't find anybody. It ends up being a sack. Later in the game, this is in the 4th quarter. This is the last drive for Boston College, down 1 score. Brent Venables dialed up the same look. He rushed 3, dropped 8, an incomplete pass. Game is over. So that's what Notre Dame's offense is going to have to be wary of. The pre-snap read may look like man, but then after the ball is snapped, Brent Venables is going to give him a whole complete different look. It's going to be a heck of a cat and mouse game watching Notre Dame's offense against Clemson's defense tonight, David.
And I think that cat and mouse game will be on the other side as well. And when you got a quarterback in Uiagalelei, he hasn't seen a lot of stuff yet. So I think if Notre Dame can be smart and mix it up and change it up and force him to throw the football. Listen, he had really good numbers last week. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure Travis Etienne doesn't catch the football. Like, he was his security blanket. He was the big play. By the way, I'm curious to see who the wide receivers are for Clemson this season. Who's going to step up and make plays? Like,
about to see 10 and Gata come back into the boundary. Get ready.
I feel like I've heard Reese say that all season long.
No, this time it's for real, I think.
I've heard that a couple times.
Hey, look, he's been battling injuries. They are waiting for the breakout. Dabo Sweeney's going to join us live via FaceTime coming up later on in College Game Day. Tonight on ABC, it'll be Stanford and Oregon. The Pac-12 starts play. Remember, Oregon doesn't have Penei Sewell up front. They lost 3 guys that coming back from their secondary that they expected to be able to return. 7:30 Eastern time. We'll see how this rebuilt but talented Ducks team does against Stanford. Mario Cristobal and Oregon. This is what's happened to them since then. Justin Herbert taken 6th overall in the draft. And man, is he playing great for the Chargers. Look at that little flick of the wrist in the pass. 5 players I mentioned opted out. A lot of them really big-time contributors, including Brady Breeze, who opted out. 11 starters, though, coming back for Cristobal's team. They entered the season as co-favorite to win the Pac-12. Stanford coming to bring a challenge. We had their assistant coaches wired.
Guys, make sure that we're extending the ball to the back. Okay, if we hold it here, we have from here to about right here to make a decision. All right, make sure we extend it over to the back so we can feel him and ride him as we're reading it.
Set! Hit! Violent uppercuts now. Throw those uppercuts. Set! Hit! Good. Switch it.
Coming out right here. So now we got our pad level here. We come here,
I want to see those last 2 steps. You got to accelerate your feet on contact. Accelerate your feet on contact. I don't want to see you slow down. We're pressing this thing right here. This is the guard.
See some intensity in practice. What do you expect to see from Stanford tonight?
You know, I'm very interested because David Shaw had this team for a number of years, the most consistent team in college football. I mean, year in, year out, you could always depend on Stanford. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I'm interested to see if they can get good quarterback play. How about the intellectual brutality, like the physicality, the playmaking on defense? I don't know if is Stanford a team that can get back to that, or do they return to that, or is there better days behind them? I want to know that about Stanford this year.
That's fair because of the results, but I think if you look at it a little bit closer, the injuries really mounted for them, especially on the offensive line. Quarterback play is what I think we all want to see. Davis Mills gets that opportunity now. He's got great receivers. He's got a really talented back in Austin Jones. So I think they're anxious. They went 4-8 last year. Think about Stanford going 4-8. I think it speaks volumes about the injuries that they had. And then Joe Moorhead is got a chance to run this Oregon offense as a new OC, got a new quarterback to work with, Des. So there's a lot to learn tonight for both these teams.
All the talk has been about the opt-outs for Oregon and how much they've lost. Well, Stanford lost some talent to opt-outs too, but they have probably one of the most talented offensive lines returning in the FBS. And you know that David Shaw wants to run the ball. Like you said, Davis Mills, a 4-star quarterback. They're going to go vertical. They have some running backs. I think it's going to be probably a very highly competitive game. Really excited and interested to see the Cardinal tonight, though.
Yeah, Des, looking forward to it. You mentioned the Stanford opt-outs. They lost Walker Little. They lost their standout corner, Paulson Adebo, too. So Stanford's had to deal with a little bit of attrition as well. When you watch that Stanford-Oregon game tonight, you're not going to be able to tell whether the Cardinal is up 21 or down 21, whether they just scored a touchdown or whether they just fumbled, if you just look at David Shaw's face. He's a stoic. Emotion never overtakes his judgment, no matter what the situation. But the last time Stanford went to Eugene, David Shaw had never had such raw emotion bubbling so close to the surface. And it had nothing to do with football and everything to do with the love for his brother Eric, who was close to death. Andrea Adelson has the story of how David Shaw had brotherly love and helped save his brother.
The story is about survival. It's about coming together. Just thinking about it, there's a tension right now in my chest and my stomach. There was still that gravity. God, I hope this works. Because if it doesn't, I'm going to lose my brother.
Eric Shaw is David's little brother. They were best friends growing up and never grew apart. But in 2011, the same year David got his dream job at Stanford, Eric's life turned into a nightmare.
I would have itching attacks where I ended up actually tearing my skin. I would still scratch at night and wake up with bloody arms and legs and skin.
It would literally look like someone had pushed marbles under his skin. There were just tumors everywhere. I don't think we were expecting to hear how bad it was.
In 2013, Eric was diagnosed with mycosis fungoides, a rare form of lymphoma. He underwent radiation and chemotherapy to get the cancer under control.
Some of the treatments, you lose your fingernails, your toenails, your eyelashes, your eyebrows. It was extremely difficult, just mentally getting up and looking at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize myself.
By 2018, doctors gave Eric a 50% chance at living just 2 more years, unless they could find a match for a bone marrow transplant.
Whatever I have to do, whatever you have to take out of me, however you have to do it, just do it. And for them to come back and say that you're not a strong enough match, it hurt me.
They searched on the worldwide registry for donors, but they only found 2 for me. The first transplant didn't work. We needed a second try.
As the 2018 season began, David took the field every game wearing a lime green pin for lymphoma, for Eric. Stanford players wore yellow and green ribbons on their helmets in honor of those fighting cancer.
I told them about the lymphoma because if that transplant didn't work, I didn't know how many more games he was going to be able to see.
They trust each other, they believe in each other, and we played really, really hard. And I got to say one more thing to my brother, Eric. I love you.
Within weeks, the second transplant failed.
My body was damaged. I had no working blood system. I was receiving transfusions daily. I thought I was going to die.
What do you say to your brother that where you think you've kind of pulled at the last thread and there are no more threads, and all I could tell him was that I loved him and that I was there for him?
I needed a miracle, and that miracle was going to come in the form of my brother.
Doctors wanted to try a third transplant, using David as the donor. The chance of success was under 40%, but he was all they had left. The Stanford head coach would need 5 straight days of side effect-inducing treatments to prepare for his bone marrow donation.
I had to start on a game day to go to the hospital, and I didn't want to alert the team because this was a family thing. This was something just had to be done.
We had meetings at 9 a.m., snuck out the back door, got in the car, we drove down the street to the hospital. He did the procedure, dropped him back off, snuck in the pregame meal, and here we are playing a top 25 team at 4:30 p.m.
I started to feel it in my knees, I started to feel it in my hips. It feels like carrying a 50-pound backpack. And I just kept thinking about, this is for Eric.
5 days later, David spent 8 hours at the hospital donating his stem cells. On Thursday, November 1st, those cells were given to Eric. 2 days after the transplant, David was in Seattle, back on the sideline.
I remember it being a difficult game. I remember it being a tough environment. I felt like I was walking like a sloth.
I remember that Washington game we lost by a touchdown, how hard some of the media and fans were on him. I just remember thinking, gosh, if people only knew.
You know, I thought about, man, I hope Eric's doing okay. God, I hope this works.
On November 25th, 2018, after 52 straight days in the Stanford hospital, Eric Shaw wasn't dying. He was leaving. The transplant worked.
They did blood tests, they did skin biopsies. The tests came back completely negative, no cancer.
I remember telling the team when my brother was diagnosed, but when I told him he was cancer-free, it was crazy, right? It was like we had just won a game in quadruple overtime. I mean, there were guys jumping on me, picking me up and hugging me, and I kept so much of it from them, but they knew.
7 years of battling this disease, and it was over. A miracle. There's people that are saved every day because somebody made the choice to become a donor. For me, it was my brother. The bond that we have now. We're truly blood brothers.
Thanks to Andrea Adelson and to the Shaws for delivering that remarkable story. Last Sunday, the Shaw family got together on a Zoom call and celebrated the 2-year anniversary of Eric and the successful transplant. And at the moment, Eric remains cancer-free, and we are delighted and thankful for that for sure. Stanford and Oregon tonight at ABC, 7:30 Eastern Time. You can see David Shaw's team as they open up against the Ducks. Kirk Chris, Virginia, he has loaded up this team and kept them in contention on several occasions, led them to victory against Oklahoma State. And you see in his Texas career, games of passing and rushing touchdowns, 5 touchdown passes, game-winning drive. first, second. What a remarkable career he's had. Now, will he be able to finish it on a high note and maybe sneak those Horns back into the Big 12 championship game? But first, as Coca-Cola counts down to kickoff, got to get past the ears.
And it's going to be a tough one. They play great defense. It's going to be him. And by the way, it's not just him throwing the football like you just showed. He's got to run the football a lot too. And find this guy down the field, Kirk. He's been ridiculous.
Yeah, they couldn't run the ball a week ago. They were fortunate to get the turnovers. Didn't throw the ball. Get those hands ready. Get those hands ready now.
Okay.
Jarrett Dagey, 26 straight games with a touchdown pass.
Neil Brown is quietly building a program there. I don't know what's going to happen today, but he's really getting the pieces around him and got a quarterback that gives him a chance every week. And their defense, like David said, has been lights out.
Mountaineers and the Longhorns coming up at noon Eastern time. LC, what about the Horns and the Mountaineers today?
Well, Reese, West Virginia notes. West Virginia is one of the nation's top defensive teams. West Virginia beat number 16 Kansas State by 27 points. And West Virginia's record against Texas in Austin is 4-1. Any other week, this would be my super dog. West Virginia upsets Texas, no question about it.
Well, and straight out there, and boy, I tell you what, you think they've been upset with Tom Herman, you let him follow Oklahoma State with a loss at home to West Virginia, won't be happy. Checking back in with Coca-Cola's virtual Section 0 as we get ready for kickoff. Section 0, I see a number of fans, some KU fans still representing in there. They got Oklahoma today. It's probably going to be a long day.
Basketball season right around the corner, kid.
Upper left square is going to have a long day there. In Jacksonville, Florida, and Georgia, you're going to have about just under 18,000 fans as they get ready for this showdown in the SEC East. Dan Mullen is an outstanding coach. He is terrific on TV, and he's a great guy. But to say I was surprised at the end of the first half last week to see him running toward the fire, gasoline can in hand, no, not really that shocked. Dan has a quirky edge to his personality. It's as if he's always walking that line between hero and heel. And that moment seemed to be his personal Anakin versus Obi-Wan Kenobi moment when Mullen decides he no longer fears the dark side. It brings peace, freedom, justice, and the security that they can beat Georgia to his new empire. In the last couple of meetings, the Gators have failed to get 300 yards of offense. So today is the day to find out for Darth Gator if the Force is with him.
Here's Trask looking to set up the pass to Tony. He spins away from traffic at the 10. He goes in! Touchdown, Gators!
KT is one of a kind. He does things that normal people can't. Whenever somebody goes one-on-one with him, it's just, we know it's touchdown.
Florida is a very explosive offense. When you got a guy like Kyle, you can put him anywhere.
We'll do a really good job of mixing things up. You can't give up explosive plays, and we got to try to force some turnovers.
Georgia's defense taking some hits. Who's going to be healthy? That could change things.
We dedicate a lot of reps in our practices to our 2s and 3s, and we're going to have several of those 2s and 3s having to play in this game.
Georgia's always been a solid team. You know, they're very well coached.
They can put big guys in the game and stop the run. They can put pass rushers in the game to get pressure. They are a very, very good defensive football team.
We've talked a lot this morning about Clemson being a little bit thin and injured and just rolling in more talented guys. Georgia can do very similar things. George Pickens did not make the trip. Richard LeCount, glad that he's doing okay. Had a motorcycle accident after the Kentucky game last week. He's out indefinitely. So it does make you wonder about the Georgia defense and the middle of it, even downfield, because Alabama had some success between the hash and against them.
And then the back end, too, when you talk about LeCount, like he's the communicator. And by the way, I get a kick out of all these people that say, hey, just double team Kyle Pitts. That's it. Okay, sure. Well, where is he going to line up? I mean, that's the great job that Dan Mullen does. He moves him around all the time, so it's constant communication on a defense. We always have to talk about where is he at. So where is he at now? Oh, he's at tight end on this side. He's off the line of scrimmage. Okay, so what do I need to do with coverage purposes? We're going to bracket him. Okay, we're going to take away the in and out purposes. Safety, by the way, vacates the middle of the field to go cover the bubble. That's a tight end, by the way. Right, going against the nickel, right up the seam, right up the, and that's 6'6", 230 pounds. And look at that guy run. I mean, it's just unbelievable how he gets up the field so quickly and then stiff arms. You know what? I got your back, bro. We'll put a corner on you. Lockdown, right? Corner, smaller guy, we got to communicate, know what's going on. Watch Kyle Pitts right here. Get off me, son. Get your hands off me. You got your little bitty hands on me? You better be bigger than that and stronger than that. Gets him off of him, gets another big play. Okay, now watch this. I love this. I'm going to put a corner on him, make sure he doesn't take away. Okay, now my corner's in run support. So now when Kyle Pitts blocks, when he lines up at the tight end spot, guess who's got to make tackles? Little corners have to come up and tackle backs. I would do this consistently. It puts you in a bad position. So it's not just, hey, double team him. Hey, just take him out of the game. Where is he? You got to find him first, and then everybody else across the formation, Des, has to adjust and communicate. So it's constant game of where is Waldo, finding Kyle Pitts all throughout the game.
Yeah, been finding Kadarius Toney, too. That guy is a problem. I try and tell you, number one can get it done. I just think that Georgia's going to have to really try to control the clock with the running game. When you have as many injuries as they do on defense, and you just saw Davis tape, you know, Florida's offense, they're a prolific group. You got to make sure that you keep that group on the sideline. You want to keep Florida's offense on the sideline. So Stetson Bennett, the running game, short passes. Kirk, I think that's going to be the recipe if they're going to have any type of success offensively in this game against the Gators.
Yeah, I think if they're going to win the game, Bennett's going to have to be consistent with his decision-making to go along with that running game. Or, like I said earlier, early down play action. But I think as much as we talk about the injuries to Georgia, I don't know if Florida can capitalize with their system on the injuries that they have. Now, I know LeCount's back there, and he's played a lot of ball, but when I watch LeCount, he's hit or miss. He takes chances, high risks, and I think you can still be sound on the back end. Face it, Florida has played so far Ole Miss, South Carolina, A&M, and Missouri. I don't care about the Georgia injuries. This is the deep end of the pool this week for Trask and Pitts against this defense. So Ajulari, Anderson, pass rush to me. Coach, I'm going to you. The pass rush to me of Georgia will be a big, big difference that Florida's going to have to deal with that they haven't seen all year.
Kirk, the strongest part of each team is when Florida has the ball. The Georgia defense in their 4 wins allowed only a total of 40 points. In the 4 games, Florida offense has scored 168 points, an SEC record. What's the difference in these two teams? The Florida quarterback, Kyle Trask, has thrown 18 touchdown passes in 4 games, which is the most ever by an SEC quarterback. Florida upset Georgia in Jacksonville.
He meant that, Bear. He's going Florida convincingly.
It's not a Dixon number 2, but can I go?
Yeah, give it to him, Bear.
He did say the Florida offense, Georgia defense is a big factor. Last 3 years, the Gators have averaged under 14 points a game. They've had 31 drives. 4 have reached the end zone. So that's a problem. Whatever Kirby Smart's system is, it's worked against Florida. And if you talk about the other side of the ball with the injury to Pickens and not being there, Florida allowed 205 yards on the ground to A&M. You don't think Georgia's going to be able to control the line of scrimmage either?
Right.
So, look, Florida might wind up winning. This might be the year they do it. But until they do it, I got to back the team that's owned the rivalry in recent years.
Yeah. You know, Kirby had success against Dan Mullen as a coordinator, too, when Mullen's at Mississippi State. Talent discrepancy there sometimes, but even with Dak Prescott, they kept him pretty much under control. So Florida and Georgia coming up, and sooner than that, Arizona State and USC as we join Maria Taylor. Maria, Keaton Slovis, Trojan quarterback, bigger, stronger, ready to go.
And I got to tell you, Reese, when he showed up as a 17-year-old early enrollee at USC, the only thing he knew for sure is that his mom was going to make him go back to high school so that he could get those prom pictures for mom. But a season after stepping into the starting role after JT Daniels' injury and putting together one of the most prolific passing seasons of a true freshman quarterback, he's warming up and ready to be the full-time starter this season.
All right, Keaton, first of all, let's talk about going into a season where you know you are the full-time starter versus being thrust into the line of fire. How does it feel going into this year?
It's definitely been a lot easier to adjust and, just expect what's coming. I think a lot of what we do offensively is kind of based around being comfortable and understanding the nuances of the offense. And that really helps a lot when you're getting the first reps, throughout the entire offseason.
When do you think you got that official confidence in your game throughout the season last year?
really the next week against Stanford, that first start, just having the reps with the ones that week really helped me out, I think.
Slovis, St. Brown, end zone, finished touchdown USC.
Well, you certainly had quite the extended offseason to continue to work on your game. I heard you put on 15 pounds of muscle. How are you able to do it?
I think most of it was just eating and continuing to get bigger and stronger. So at the end of last year in the bowl game, I hurt my arm. So I think that was something that was really my focus, even though it was better in spring ball. It was just, throwing more soundly before even the arm injury. There'd be times where my arm could get tired. I'd sit out like one-on-ones because I didn't want to throw any. So now I feel like I can throw all day without it getting tired. So it's been pretty nice.
When people think about this USC offense going into 2020, what do you want them to expect?
This year we have everyone, returning. All our running backs are healthy. We're sound outside the receiver. Obviously, those guys are great. And up front, we're doing I'm really happy with what we're doing. So I think you're going to see just a complete offense this year.
And obviously the anchor to that complete offense will be Kedon Slovis. Now, as head coach Clay Helton said, he went from being a young man to a grown man this year. But Reese, to put that into perspective, he's still just a teenager. He's 19, doesn't turn 20 until April of this year.
Well, Maria, it was a grown man against the Sun Devils last year. He hit him for 432 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. Coca-Cola counting us down to kickoff in the Coliseum, just 38 minutes and change away. As Slovis, Graham Harrell really pushed at him to use his core, or he wanted to improve his core strength to take some of the pressure off the arm that Maria talked about. And there's his favorite target, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had over 1,000 yards receiving a year ago.
He can talk core all he wants. It's about decision-making and being more comfortable second year in the system and getting the ball to 6 as often as he can in a variety of different ways. Graham Harrell runs one of these air raid offenses that everybody's running, and they're going to have to score because of what's on the other side. Jaden Daniels is a guy that, again, second year, much like Slovis, and now he's got Zach Hill coming over from Boise State. We heard earlier what they were trying to do with Herm Edwards, a lot of pre-snap movement, different things, try to get matchups for Darby.
And bombs away to Darby. Big play wide receiver, 20 yards a catch last year. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk leaves, so they're going to have to find a guy that can be a playmaker, and seems to be every year they got one big-time guy.
I want you to watch the Sun Devils defense, too. Jack Jones, the former Trojans, ready to break out there. Coca-Cola counting us down to kick off 37 minutes and a little over that until Michigan State and Iowa start. Rocky Lombardi, he's a West Des Moines, Iowa native. Iowa recruited him, went to Michigan State. His mom and sister's going to be able to be at the game today. And you see some other Spartans still riding high after that victory against Michigan.
Ricky White last week, the freshman, went off almost 200 yards against Michigan receiving.
Spencer did not last week.
No.
A lot of turnovers. They need to figure this side of the ball out. Too much turnover so far for this Iowa offense.
Well, they came very close. They've lost 2 games by 5
very
points.
Close.
Right there.
Been right there.
Yeah, it's been tough. See if they...
Time. Runs into traffic and comes up a yard short. The Clemson defense rises up.
Tonight, hey, it was BYOG, bring your own guts.
It's the ability to know how to win, and that's Clemson. They're battle tested, gives them every reason to be confident.
Lawrence, back to throw. Pops up at 10 of the 5, 9 to the end zone, touchdown. Looking for Higgins in the end zone, and he makes a juggling grab, one-handed for a touchdown.
Look out, and he gets buried. Notre Dame's hopes fading fast.
They'll give it to Travis, and he busts it up the middle. Down the sideline he goes, and into the end zone, bang!
I'm really proud of our team. We got it done. This is what we came here to do.
They went on to win the national championship that year, and that is always the goal for Clemson. Pleased to be joined by the Tigers head coach, Dabo Swinney, who I didn't know there was anything else he could accomplish, but he could lead Clemson to their first true road victory against the top 5 opponent tonight. Dabo joining us from the team hotel. You've never been here before. You got a little walking tour after the walkthrough. What impressed you the most about Notre Dame?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, absolutely beautiful campus. Got a chance to go light a candle at the grotto, and of course I had Tim Beret give me a little tour and got to go see where the priests live and just the old cabin, the old college, the lake. I mean, it's just, I'm glad I got to be here without snow on the ground. Brian's probably not happy about that, but because I got a chance to see the beautiful landscape. I've never been here, and it was just really, really cool experience to see Notre Dame. One of the one of the great places in all the country.
They used to accuse Notre Dame of growing the grass real high, but you're not going to have to worry about that with the field turf tonight. On the field, having a DJ as a full week, knowing that he's going to be the starter, plus having the game under his belt from last week, how did that impact him?
I don't know. I mean, he was, like I said last week, I mean, didn't even know that he was going to be playing or starting, and when I found him in the quarterback room preparing by himself. So I think he's prepared to be the starter. That's been his mindset all along, but certainly coming in and having a full week to really take all the reps with the ones, I think that's probably the biggest thing that hopefully will benefit him.
Hey, Dabo, regardless of whether it's DJ or Trevor, or there's injuries on defense, or there aren't injuries on defense, at the end of the day, just the DNA of Clemson and in these kind of games, how would you describe what that is? Because you've been there and done that so much, and how that rubs off on the entire program when they get into games like this. They seem to play at their best. The stage is never too big for your teams.
Well, this is championship phase of the season for us, and when you get in games like this where the margin for error is small, first of all, you got to believe. You have to execute your plan to win, which we have. You have to handle the adversity and the success of the game. Your best players have to play. Best players have to lead the way. And, you got to have some fun. I always tell them, it's joy's in the doing. And so this is what it's all about. And as you said, I mean, it's a top 5 game on the road. How often do you get a chance to play a top 5 team on the road at their place? Those are rare opportunities. But I think just over 12 years, we've not won them all, that's for sure, but we've had enough success along the way that it's just kind of woven into the DNA. These guys believe and expect to win, and they're not overwhelmed with the moment. And we may get our butts beat tonight, who knows? But we don't let one moment define us. This is the biggest game of the year because it's the next one, and that's just how we've gone into it for a long time now, and that's helped us be very consistent.
Yeah, it's certainly a huge game, Dabo, as we pointed out earlier. Who knows? Could be the first of 2 meetings this year. Dabo, thanks for spending time with us, and we wish you the best of luck tonight.
All right. Always good to be with y'all. Go Tigers.
All right, Dabo Swinney at the Team Hotel, which is just off the edge of campus here, not far from Notre Dame Stadium. This is just coming in to ESPN right now. Some news away from football. ABC News has declared the election, and Joe Biden will be the 46th president of the United States. For the last several days, as I'm sure you know, there have been many counts and worrying about whether we would reach this point and how quickly we would do so, but it is now official, according to ABC News. Joe Biden has won the election and will be the 46th president. Continuing coverage of that throughout the day on ABC News. As for us, we go back to college football, and we just talked to Dabo Swinney about DJ Uyunglele, about how he has been able to handle everything so well. And Des, as you look at this, Dabo talked about how Clemson is sort of built for this moment.
They really are, and I thought that was an excellent question from Kirk to Dabo about that. And it boils down to coaching. I mean, it's the coaches starting from Dabo all the way down that they make sure that they coach their young men so well that the moment's never too big for them. It's almost like they're built for this moment, and we expect the same thing no matter who's playing at the quarterback position. I think that DJ is going to be ready. It was a great story that Dabo told that said, man, I found him in the quarterback's room studying to prepare for Boston College by himself when I broke the news to him that he'll be studying. So I think that says a lot about that young man, but also speaks volumes about the coaching staff and the type of culture that they have too. Dave, I just think that when you look at Notre Dame's defense, because he is a freshman, he's a quarterback, he's a young guy, he bleeds, he panics, they're going to have to really try to pressure him to see how he responds if they're going to win this game.
And the culture and the coaching you're talking about, the guys are always there. Brent Venables, always there. Tony Elliott, always there. Dabo, always there. A lot of consistency on that staff over the years. Just same faces, and by the way, same results. I think this is a different kind of day for DJ. I think he's going to have to run the football. I think his wheels, I don't think it's going to be 5. I think it's going to be 15 to 20 carries today. You got to realize, we talked about this dude and we showed his stats, 6'5", 250. Like, he's not a small dude. I mean, he's a grown-up, and I think he's going to have to play like it's night. He won't be a freshman. You're going to see his biggest test, but I think his wheels and physicality will play a huge part in the ballgame.
Beyond his physicality and beyond the arm strength, if you watch that BC game, I thought it was an incredible testament to his poise and patience. I mean, they dug themselves a hole. They're down. Trevor's not there. They've got to be able to fight back. And I just thought he did an incredible job of just trying to maintain the poise, not try to force things, not try to live up to the hype and try to be this 5-star all-world quarterback. Let's take a look at today's More Driven Player presented by Goodyear. And, of course, that's DJ Uiagalelei. One thing about him is, looking over, Tony Elliott did a great job of prepping him, getting him ready. This is a 4th and 1. They're down. They got to make a play. You think Nine's getting the ball. It's his own read. He reads that in-man collapsing, and that's what David's talking about. The big fella can pull it. He's got some wheels. He's not going to go get 5 yards, and there's Dabo coming over to him saying, hey, way to play. We're going to get out of this hole. We're going to get back into this football game because, they were down 28-10, 28-13. Now it's 28-20. And again, I love this play because Spector goes deep. And again, you're a young quarterback. You want to pull the trigger. You want to let it rip. And instead, he shows patience. He's got the underneath route, but instead it's Travis Etienne as a running back lined up as a receiver, little hook and go. How about the arm strength and the accuracy on that throw? Here again, late in the game, got to make a play. I love this look because it shows the location and how precise he can be to a veteran receiver. And Amari Rodgers puts it away on that back shoulder and it lets 3 adjust to the ball. And this, to me, tells you everything. They show blitz man 3. This is all pre-snap. Then they drop a safety. Okay, they're cover 2. Nope, they're cover 3 at the snap of the ball. So now he knows on 3rd and 12, they need to make a play. He takes the easy throw into the boundary. If that corner's up tight, he can't make that throw. So it's all of these things that allow him to come back, bring this team back. But he's going to be tested mentally. David and I are seeing it eye to eye. If you've watched Clemson since Taj Boyd has been there, they get into big games, whether it's Taj or Deshaun or Trevor, the quarterback run game 15 times minimum tonight by number 5 running the ball. That could be the difference in the game. But, Coach, on the other side, if you're Notre Dame, how do you attack Clemson? They're talking all about these injuries. How do you attack them?
Yeah. Kirk, if I was the Irish coach, I would attack Clemson's defense as follows. Run the ball behind a veteran and big offensive line. I'd rotate my 3 exit running backs. Control the clock, shorten the game. Play action passes to tall receivers, especially 6'5" tight end Michael Mayer. He caught 5 passes against Pitt, all for first downs. Reese, a game in the mid-20s favors the Irish. Go Irish. Go Irish.
No.
Go Irish.
LC's picks have been perfect. They've been perfect so far with the headgear picks. I'm not sure we've said it yet and enough. Travis Etienne. A lot of all-purpose yards last week to help out
doubt.
DJ. Bear, which way you leaning there?
Dabo Sweeney hit on just the air of confidence around this team in big games. So I have to go with them. I don't know if Notre Dame's good enough on the perimeter to expose. Like the problem last week wasn't Trevor Lawrence not playing. It was defense in the first half, buckled up the second half, and I just have to trust Clemson to win another big game.
There's plenty of reason to do that for sure. Don't miss Etienne.
9 and white tonight out here. He may have a chance to make a play.
Let's see if it's going to work out for him. ABC at noon Eastern time. I mean, the guy's just the all-time leading rusher in the ACC.
And he's catching the ball like a madman.
264 all-purpose yards last week. Coca-Cola counting us down to kickoff. Also, not only West Virginia and Texas, got North Carolina and Duke. Sam Howell.
Reverse psychology in there from time to time.
LC, who you got as the Superdog?
Clemson is at -5.5 against Notre Dame. These teams have met only 2 times in the last 23 years. Clemson won both of them. It's been a long time coming, but the Irish beat #1 Clemson. Go Irish, go!
Oh, man, I hate that pick. Listen, I've been getting crushed the last couple of weeks. I'm going way out to Hawaii. That's right. I got New Mexico. What they have a quarterback named Tabaka Tuioi. Watch them tonight.
Good job,
God
Dan.
bless you. Listen, I got Vanderbilt, by the way. When you look at Vanderbilt, first of all, when you look at Mississippi State, they've scored 21 points in the last 4 games. I'm getting 19. Like, I'm surely happy about that. I got no problem with that. So I'm going to take the Commodores.
Steve Mace will get those guys ready to go. By the way, is it just me or is Coach bullish on the Irish?
He might be setting up switcheroo.
He may be. He may be. Who do I have this week? I got Michigan State and Iowa. How many points am I getting there?
What is it, 5.5.
I was 6.5, Bear. Now you're giving me 5.
It's some books now.
Bear's just
5.5.
Yeah.
Hey, give me Liberty and give me 17 points. Or maybe 16.5. Anyway, the Flames haven't played anybody. Their opponents are 4-28. But the offense is real. Malik Willis is good as anyone when the play breaks down. Give me Liberty and perhaps Superdog Death. I don't know. We'll see.
Old Dominion.
Yeah, I know. Looking
the
back
big
at
fella.
Chase Claypool, our celebrity guest picker. What a season he's having for the Steelers, a Notre Dame legend as we get ready for our Saturday selections today. Brought to you by Coors Light. And this is what Chase is aiming for right now. Vince Vaughn still sitting up there with the double-figure wins and another good performance from Alex Rodriguez earlier in the year. Let's see if Chase can do even better. And we'll get things started with the game that I picked for the Superdog. Chase, undefeated Liberty against Virginia Tech. Who you got?
Yeah, guys. So Liberty's having a special season. Coach Hugh Freeze is doing a good job, but I think Virginia Tech is going to prove to be too much. So I'm taking the Hokies here.
Oh, man, I tell you what, now I'm really upset because this is RD's Superdog, but I got to go with Hugh Freeze and Liberty. I know that people say they're going to score a lot of points, but I don't think Virginia Tech's going to score a lot of points. So I'm going Liberty.
Wow. All right.
Whoa. Whoa.
I think Virginia Tech's going to score at will behind that big physical offensive line with Khalil Herbert. High scoring, 60-40 type game.
Well,
take VT.
Yeah, I'm just happy there. You picked them as
It is like 16 and a
I
half.
got Virginia Tech by 17. The Reese goes down again this week.
Virginia Tech knocks Liberty from the unbeaten list, but they don't cover. Watch it.
Hey! I like that, LC. You know what? If Houston didn't have injuries at wide receiver, I was going to take them as my dog against Cincinnati. Chase, what do you think? Cougars or Bearcats?
Yeah, my former offensive coordinator is at Cincinnati right now, so I know he has some special things drawn up. So with that being said, I got to go Cincinnati.
Good pick, good pick. I'm going with the Bearcats. Desmond Ridder averages almost 9 yards per carry, has 5 rushing touchdowns. Go Bearcats, David.
Bearcats.
Bearcats, but closer than the experts think, Coach. Give me Cincinnati and Chip Long's offense, but I will say that it's going to be a little bit closer than people think.
Cincinnati's won 6 of the last 8, making 7 of the last 9. Cover. They cover.
Michigan's going to be without both starting tackles against Indiana. Chase, who wins the game?
So the narrative is on Indiana. The narrative is saying fire Coach Harbaugh. I think he has his back against the wall, and I think he pulls out a big win. So it pains me to do this, but I got to pick Michigan here.
Michigan normally responds after a devastating loss, but losing 2 tackles, I think that's going to be a big uphill battle for the Wolverines, so they'll win a close one against Indiana, David.
I think Michigan matchup with Indiana is a lot better than last week. They can physically run the football, be who they want to be on offense. I think you'll see the run game come back. Michigan wins.
I think Michigan was uninspired a week ago. I think all this negativity kind of surrounding their program will finally get this team inspired and get them to play the way they're capable of playing. Coach, I got Michigan on the road winning in Bloomington.
Michigan has won 24 straight games against IU. Make it 25. Cover.
Northwestern trying to get to 3-0 against Nebraska, Chase.
Yeah, no, I think this is an easy one for me. For some reason, it just feels right, but I'm picking Northwestern right now.
Yeah, I'm going Wildcats, too. I like their defense. They rely heavily on their linebackers. And Adrian Martinez, a quarterback in Nebraska, he's fumbled 21 times in his career, lost 11 of them. I'm going Northwestern.
I think the quarterback run game could give Northwestern's defense some issues, but Peyton Ramsey can also do the same thing. I think they'll score enough points, Northwestern.
And Luke McCaffrey kind of uses a quarterback as a running back. You know, keep an eye on him in this football game. We haven't seen Nebraska play other than the Ohio State game. I think that they'll keep this very, very close, but I do think Peyton Ramsey has that it factor. And the Cats are believing after a tough year last year. Coach, I got Northwestern.
Northwestern is as tough to beat at home. They win a close one, Northwestern.
All right, Oklahoma State and Kansas State. Wildcats got spanked last week. Cowpokes came up short. Who wins it, Chase?
Yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about Oklahoma State, but I know that they produce some stellar receivers with my former teammate, or my teammate right now, James Washington, and the stud they have right now, Tylan Wallace. So with that being said, I'm going Oklahoma State.
Hey, Chase, let me help you out. They got this quarterback by the name of Spencer Sanders. I think he's completing 70% of his throws. I'm going with the Cowboys, David.
The only thing about Spencer is he throws to the other team a little bit. He can't do that today. And I tell you what, Oklahoma State defense is really, really banged up, missing a couple guys. So I think this will be a little bit closer than we would have thought it would have been. But I do think Oklahoma State's too good.
And Des, just to add to help out with Chase, Chuba Hubbard, another guy that is kind of the end of that three-headed monster of Oklahoma State's offense. So I got Oklahoma State, Coach.
Oklahoma State, too much defense for the Wildcats. Close one, though. They're going to play close.
Yeah, Chuba put nearly 300 on them last year. How about West Virginia and Texas, Chase?
Yeah, I've been watching Sam Ehlinger since he was a freshman, and I'm a fan of him. I'm a fan of his play. So I can't bet against him. I'm going Texas.
I'm going Longhorns, too, because of Sam. Sam's going to will his team to victory. I think it's going to be much closer than people think, but I got the Longhorns, David.
Dante and Darius Stills. Remember those two names, 55 and 56 for West Virginia defense. They're going to own that deep offensive line for Texas. It's going to be hard for them to move the football. West Virginia wins this football game.
You're going with that upset. I just think that Texas found a way last week. The turnovers were key. They were +4, but their offense didn't play well. I think they've had a good week of practice. I know Ehlinger's a little bit banged up, but I think Texas offense is the difference today in this game, Coach.
West Virginia, defense, defense, defense. Wins it. Upset, West Virginia.
Oh, another one going with the ears. Kirk's not going to pick this one. Everybody else will. Stanford and Oregon, Chase.
Yeah, I think Oregon's defense is too strong. Obviously, they lost a couple of key optos to Sewell and Holland, but I just think they get after it, and I think they have a big game going Oregon.
Oregon's defense is weak because they lost so many players to the opt-out. And you're looking at Stanford's quarterback, Davis Mills, 4-star quarterback, strong offensive line. He's going to have time. I'm going with the Stanford Cardinal, David.
Hey, okay. I'm not. I'm going with Oregon. The run game with C.J. Vardell, he's a stud, man. I don't care about the quarterback situation yet. New offense with Oregon. But I think, Coach, that they're going to pound the football. And I think because of that, Oregon wins.
Oregon has won 15 straight home games. Average 58 points per game. Oh, they win this one. 2 touchdowns.
That one's on ABC at 7:30 Eastern time tonight. About to get set to start. Arizona State and USC, Chase.
This one's going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a shootout. It's going to be fun to watch. A rival with USC, so I played them every year I was at Notre Dame. I know how much trouble they gave us, so I'm going USC here.
That's right. Fight on. I'm going with the USC Trojans. I tell you what, Keaton Slovis had a magnificent year as a true freshman. A year ago, 30 touchdowns. I think he picks up where he left off from 2019. I'm going with the USC Trojans, David. Fight on.
Yeah, I think the offensive line supporting cast for USC and Slovis is a little bit better than Jaden Daniels. I hope they can protect Jaden Daniels, keep him upright. If they do, he's going to make plays. But I just think the supporting cast at USC is the difference.
Well, the offensive line and the receivers. I mean, he's got some dynamic, and it's a group of receivers. Yeah. It's not just Frank Darby. And I also think USC depleted last year in the secondary. Everybody's healthy. Everybody comes back. New defensive coordinator in Todd Orlando. I like USC today against Arizona State, Coach.
Arizona State is one of the youngest football teams in the country. USC covers. Big game for USC.
We had one earlier, Cincinnati and Houston. Make sure that Mike Denbrock's going to be dialing up ball plays there against the Cougars.
Yes, sir.
All right, what about Florida and Georgia, Chase Claypool?
Yeah, this is going to be a defensive game, unlike the USC game. I think this is going to be a defensive game all the way through. I need to see the dogs fall here, so I'm going Florida for my sneaky pick of the day.
I don't know if that's that sneaky because I got the Gators too. I just think too much offense. Dan Mullen is going to come up with a good plan to try to attack that Kirby Smart defense. I'm going Gators in a close one, David.
Dan Mullen has struggled really bad against Kirby Smart. I mean, they have struggled to move the football. I think Kirby Smart, Georgia's offense, I think it's ground and pound. The Florida defense is not what it used to be. I think this is a really, really close football game. I think Georgia wins, though.
Yeah, I think Georgia wins as well. And I just think that Stetson Bennett has a chance to give this offense today balance. I look for early down play action, move the pocket, and I think his ability to make good decisions will be crucial today, especially without George Pickens. But at the end of the day, the defense coach, very, very sound and can give Kyle Trask a lot of trouble.
The game's in Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida. The Gators upset number 5 Dogs. Gators upset number 5 Dogs.
It's been there the last 3 years, too, hasn't it?
It is. Clemson has been embracing the whole Notre Dame experience. They toured campus. They looked at Touchdown Jesus. Dabo had his picture taken with a Newt Rockne statue. They watched Rudy for the team movie last night. It's like they're at Notre Dame fantasy camp. But vacation's over tonight. It's all business for the Tigers and Irish.
It's number 1 versus number 4.
Who's going to execute, who's going to be physical, who's going to make the plays that matter to win the game.
This game has been circled on our schedule for a long time, and we're on a mission this year.
Both teams are going to fight and scratch and claw and battle, and not going to just tiptoe through the lilies and beat these guys.
Notre Dame hasn't won one of these since 1993. Desmond, Clemson or Notre Dame?
I tell you what, make sure you check out Notre Dame's defense. It's going to be 60 minutes of hell for Clemson's offense. And make sure you check out number 14, Kyle Hamilton. I think he's going to be a difference maker on the defense. I'm going with Notre Dame in an upset.
I like it, Des. I'm not going to go that way. I do think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I think DJ's ability to run the football over and over, quarterback run game for Clemson, gives them enough points, gets Notre Dame a little bit behind, and the passing attack's just not there yet, not explosive enough. I'll take Clemson.
Boy, what a matchup with Tony Elliott, offensive coordinator and play caller from Clemson against Clark Lee, defensive coordinator from Notre Dame, two of the best in the country going head-to-head and trying to scheme each other up. I'm with Clemson here. I just think the playmaking ability, not just offensively, this defense has heard all week. How are you going to hold up against the physicality of Notre Dame at the line of scrimmage? How are you going to do it without Tyler Davis and James Skowski? Chase, I know they're your boys, but I just think Clemson is going to show up with a chip on their shoulder today and get it done.
Guys, you know what I'm wearing. You know who I'm going with. Let me give you some reasons why. I think Ian Book and Javon McKinley are going to have breakout games on the offensive side of the ball. And I think Jeremiah Owusu and Kyle Hamilton are going to continue to show what they've been doing all year long. So with that being said, with the custom jersey, I'm going with my Irish.
That is a great jersey, too, there.
Good
LC,
pick.
You've been perfect. Who you got?
It's no secret I'm picking the Irish, but it's been 43 years since Notre Dame beat Clemson. 43 years, but it's worth the wait. The Irish upset number 1 Clemson and get their 23rd straight win at home. Go Irish!
Wow. We're going to get the jig. Oh, the Irish jig.
Yeah, stand up, Coach. Stand up and do a little dance for us there. Do the little Irish jig. Come on now, Coach. Come on, babe.
Notre Dame's got the longest winning streak in the country. It will be challenged tonight. Clemson never beat a top 5 team on the road. Can they do it? Thanks to Chase Claypool. Great celebrity guest picker. Enjoy your day of college football. We've had a wonderful morning in South Bend.
Well, Reese, we welcome you to Iowa City and ESPN College Football presented by Geico as part of Veterans Week presented by USAA and the Big Ten on ESPN. A glorious day for football at Kinnick. And a Michigan State team coming off of a huge win in Ann Arbor last Saturday against an Iowa group Ann Arbor that would love to get their first win an Iowa group of the season. It's a Big Ten noon kickoff here of the season. It's a Big Ten noon kickoff here with Dan Orlovsky, Paul Carcaterra. He will join us in just a moment. I guess the biggest question right now in the Big Ten might be with these Spartans. Who are they? Are they the team that lost to Rutgers opening day? Or are they the team that overcame a 3-touchdown underdog deficit last week against Michigan?
Yeah, I think they're a lot more like the team we saw last week. This is what we know about Michigan State. They can handle failure, disappointment, because we saw them rebound to that win last week. I want to see if they can handle success today. And then for Iowa, you're not going to start winning games until you keep yourself from losing them. And it's all about their turnovers. But these two teams should give us a really good college football game today.
Well, Mel Tucker, they were a team last week that I think he was really happy to see bounce back from a 7-turnover opening day performance against Rutgers to win physically at the line of scrimmage against Michigan and also win with shots to some very talented receivers.
Yeah, it's a big part of their offense. They got a quarterback that's really comfortable with them in Rocky Lombardi, but this is a very, very good receiving core. Reed, Naylor, and White all have the ability to go make plays downfield. They want to run the ball, and then they'll give those guys opportunities one-on-ones to make some big plays.
Ricky White was the Big Ten co-freshman of the week for a reason, and he caught big play after big play last week for the Spartans. And talk about the perfect day to play a football game. Only family members of the players allowed at Kinnick today, and they are basking in 65 degrees and sunshine as we are set. Michigan State won the toss and deferred their option to the third quarter. So it will be the Hawkeyes that will start with the football. Matt Coughlin sends it deep, and we are underway. And this is going to come out to the 25-yard line. Well, Spencer Petras last week, 3 interceptions in a loss to Northwestern.
Right? I mean, the last Pac-12 title for SC was when Pete Carroll was there.
And the difference in college as opposed to the NFL, they got to do it with style. It's not just enough for USC to win if they want to win all their games, or Oregon to win if they win all their games. You got to blow teams out. If you're a Pac-12 team, go undefeated, blow teams out, you'll be in the conference.
Speaking of style, throw that leg up onto this desk and show America your ankle cleavage. These guys don't understand it. Let's see if Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt understand.
Hey, there's style,
guys,
baby.
have a great
you want to see some style? That's style right there. There's a bunch of women in America saying, I got to
All right, Big Noon Saturday is sponsored by AT&T Business from the Grand Old Lady, the LA Memorial Coliseum. We are ready to start the Pac-12 season right here on Fox as Arizona State comes into town to take on the 20th ranked Trojans of the University of Southern California. Hi, everybody. I'm Gus Johnson along with my partner Joel Klatt, and welcome to Los Angeles. Good morning from Los Angeles.
Here we
partner,
are.
9
Don't you
a.m.
love it?
You know, all of my life I've waited to call a game at 9 a.m.
That's a poor Pinocchio claim, America.
Now I'm going to tell you the truth about
Here
something.
we go.
We get an opportunity to see two teams, Arizona State and SC, both won 8 games a year ago, and both have 2 of the most talented young quarterbacks in America.
I can't wait for this matchup. These two guys really are sensational players. We're talking about Keaton Slovis from USC and Jaden Daniels from Arizona State. We'll start with Keaton Slovis. What a remarkable freshman year he had. Came in for the injured JT Daniels and just lit it up. 3,500 yards, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the country, and his leadership, I thought, was apparent as that season went along. He's got great weapons on the outside to throw to, and those wide receivers for the Trojans. On the other side, Jaden Daniels, one of the most highly recruited quarterbacks in the entire country. And he came in, took care of the football incredibly well with only 2 interceptions, ran it when he needed to, and his leadership and ability to play big in big moments was one of the reasons why they were able to beat Michigan State, Oregon, and have a quality year there for Herm Edwards. I can't wait for this matchup. Like I said, Gus, these two quarterbacks make this one of the best quarterback matchups in all of college football.
And what's interesting about the matchup is Jaden Daniels, the quarterback for Arizona State, is from right here in Southern California, while Keaton Slovis is from